Good evening, folks. I'm live with one of the Australians.
G'day, folks.
One of the Australians.
G'day, folks. G'day, folks. Michael and Doom and Darkness here, bringing you another battle report. We are bringing up the mighty Shootcast Eternals versus the deadly as ever Gutbusters. Who's going to win, folks? We are here with the Colin and Matthew, the Wild Form Weiss. How are you, folks?
I think I accidentally started doing battle reports. What the heck's going on here?
just Michael here, Doom and Darkness here, plugging another wonderful, delicious product here from South Australia. It is doomwater. We have 2 to give away on this stream. You'll want to stay tuned, stay here, folks, because this is going to be a wonderful stream on the RantCast.
Yeah, so stay tuned for how to win the delicious bath water, the doom water. It's organic, 100%.
Organic, delicious doom water.
It is, as I recall, it's gluten free, right? There might be some...
It is gluten free. However, I did have a bath. Actually, this was a limited edition fresh barrel that was created. I actually put some fried bacon in the water, so it has been kind of I guess fermenting with the delicious salts that is bacon. So this is unique. And if you can hear that sound, my dog decided to bring his tennis ball in and play right next to my terrain. So I'm going to have to pull that ball out and tell him not to touch my City GT terrain. He decided to put his tennis ball right next to this lovely piece of terrain.
Oh, man, that could be real confusing. Welcome, everybody. RantCast episode 8, I guess. Wow, 8 of these things now. And to think I accidentally started doing this. And actually, I'm just going to jump into kind of like, before we get to City, that's actually a good springboard into... I actually have AOS Coach here, Anthony Magro. Part of the reason
you did have Doom.
Yesterday I did.
Yesterday
I did have Doom, and there was some straight heat on that episode. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out on YouTube. Part of the reason I do this even is actually a conversation we had a few months ago. Man, it seems like it was yesterday, but I met you like in person at Adepticon, and then a couple months later, I was responding to someone's tweet or something like that about how like I felt this dissonance between, all the different parts of myself, because like I keep my writing. At the time I was keeping my writing separate from playing video games, keeping it separate from Age of Sigmar, and you're just like you didn't tell me to unite the clans, but the solution I arrived at was like I needed to kind of unite the tribes within myself, and the advice you actually gave me was this burning platform thing is, I needed something to, like, keep me moving. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. It's been a very good couple of months for me, all because of just that little, like, just kindness from across from the upside down, and it sort of helped me get just a kind of like a new handle on just this whole internet business and even myself. So thank you so much, and I'm really, really happy you're on. So
no, I appreciate your charity that you are giving me as reciprocity. No, look, the work was all yourself. So no, it's great, and I think part of this discussion we might go into is the fact that while on Twitter and Instagram and on Facebook and at tournaments, we bring the AOS or the Warhammer version of ourselves, but there's this whole other world of family and kids and work and our personal life and our relationships and our wellness. And there's so much that happens that we probably don't get a snapshot of. So it was great to get to know you outside of just the Warhammer player that you are.
Right. And I myself like do a little bit of the persona thing when I'm Warhammering, and so it just to like actually like connect on a personal level, and then kind of realize like especially when you get into like the streaming venue and you start to make content and stuff, like you are the reason that whatever you're making is personal and resonant. So yeah.
And I can see your chat's awesome, by the way. They're going off.
They're popping off here. Yeah.
Dad Hammer tells me not to use things with any more than 6 letters. I've got Frank and Tomb King Tristan. God love you, Tristan. I've got Warsaw, you got so much going on. Is the doomwater halal? Clearly not. It's bacon. So I did have a cheeky joke like 10, 15 years ago when I was at a Chinese restaurant and I was ordering a pork dish and a lady was clearly not paying attention. I said to her, is the pork halal? She's like, yeah, it's halal, halal. I'm like, yeah, you're not paying attention. You're hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah. No, speaking of, like, we did start a whole hour early, so Tristan's bedtime's in like an hour, so he might actually get to watch rather than just drop in, say hi, and leave.
I know. On the flip side, Dad Hammer, who works late, he's like still got sleep in his eye and probably been feeding his newborn child, so he's got probably like vomit all on his shirt. So it's a nice mix, the yin to the yang.
Yeah, exactly. We're representing two demographics simultaneously. Look at that. All right. So you want to talk about some cities real quick, and we'll and then we'll go into our yeah.
Quick. We're gonna talk cities quick.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
No, we're not gonna.
I don't know if you can see this behind me, but I have I think this is 3rd or 4th edition book called The Empire, and I've got every single battle tome behind me. This isn't going to be quick. So I am excited.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for that follow there, Moho Joe. That 3rd or 4th edition, that's the book I grew up hating. That's the one with witch hunters in it, like OG, right? Like
this is my original book. This is the book that I bought when I was a kid. It was probably my second purchase after I bought the Grand Theogonist of Volkmar the Grim with my very first paycheck, being a casual assistant, packing a fruit and veg little shop. And my parents told me I had to put in 1/3 of my income into a savings account or rent to save, and that didn't happen because it all went into Warhammer, and my parents never got that money back. But this is my original book. I've been an Empire player since back in the day. I am OG when it comes to moustaches, and I'm looking forward to this book.
Yeah. I've been just shouting constantly that I think this is the most important book of AOS 2.0. I can say that very, like, I feel very concrete when I say that. Like, this isn't like a hot take. This book, there's some meta implications, but I think that is just completely tertiary, not even secondary to what I think this book can do for the game of Age of Sigmar. I talked to last cast about how, like, it's just this bridge between worlds. That you've got the old school players, which is, I think, the first, like, sort of obvious bridge is like, yeah, hey, like, Greybeards, come play your old army again now, finally. You can stop the keto diet. You don't need to play 9th Age. You can come play a real game. And we're going to support you properly. So there's that. But it's actually, and this is something I kind of hadn't realized, but it's also a bridge to, like, a classical take on fantasy. The thing I love about Age of Sigmar is that it's totally plagiarizing Frank here from chat. It's a fantasy game of a fantasy game. It's cranked up to 11, to quote Spinal Tap, or this is Spinal Tap. So to have that, like someone can walk up to this game and go, this is fantasy I recognize. I know, what men with fancy caps and great swords and cod pieces like are. Whereas, you see some of the more obscure stuff, you might not quite get what's going on with Age of Sigmar. So I think it's really, really great for that reason.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's a wonderful book. I remember the transition from fantasy to Sigmar, and the real struggle that I had was that I really identify as the common man. The average Joe. When I play Dungeons and Dragons, and I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons now for over 20 years.
Human fighter every time?
I'm 99.9% of the time a human. I love the fighter. If it's not the fighter, it's something like a rogue, a barbarian. And I love that.
Non-magic users. Yeah.
Very rarely a magic user, but I love the quest to find magic items. Maybe a cleric, the priest and all that good stuff. But I really like the common man, and I think the one thing that's been really missing in Warhammer Age of Sigmar is the fact that Stormcast have been almost like the average Joe. The Stormcast Eternal was the flat battle line that people used to compare all other creatures and units in the game And for me, it's always been the generic, whether it's the peasant in Bretonia, whether it's the generic free guild guard in the cities book. We need the average Joe to make those superhuman Stormcast feel like superhuman Stormcast. And I'm really excited to see all of those rich armies from the past potentially rebased and brought into game. I'm excited to people who are going to walk into their Games Workshop and, you know, the likes of the Luke Stones who are going to go buy a Charybdis army. The Jet,
right? The full
I've got a friend Jet who's super excited about building a steam tank army. I've got the dispossessed Dans who are out there going, you know, finally I can use my dwarves, and they love that Tolkien-esque Lord of the Rings or Dungeons and Dragons fantasy style, and they want to bring that classic element and then put that Sigmar spin.
Yeah. So it's I don't like on one hand there's a couple ways you can read it. You can read it as like this lazy sort of catch-all thing, but I think it actually comes from a place of sincerity from Games Workshop, which is why I think we're seeing such a refinement. The handful of models I know hit close to home for a lot of people, but I think they had to trim some fat to show that this isn't just, you know, like
it's an olive branch.
Yeah.
It's an olive branch.
Yes.
But also it's a quick win. If I think about commercially as a quick win, they've got boxes and boxes and boxes of this old stuff that hasn't been selling. Who on earth is walking to Games Workshop saying, hello, I would like to buy a box of free guild crossbowmen, please?
Right.
Because it's not advertised anywhere. It's not in the meta. No one's running about it. No, there's no book to support it. So why would someone go buy it? And, like, this is a great opportunity to clear some stock, but also provide an olive branch, but also potentially bring some new, interesting armies back on the table. When I ran Free Guild for 2 years before taking a small break, and the 15, 20 years before that with the Empire, people were excited to see something new, something different. They never played Free Guild or an old army. And I get that same feeling playing dwarves and the older elves.
Yeah. And it's just it's just a good look, the olive branch take, like you said, and I'm excited to see the breadth of armies we're going to see going forward. Like, your city's army is going to be your city's army in a very, like, obvious way, and that's going to be different from you know, Luke's army, from Grix's army. Like, everyone's going to have their, like, obvious army, and I think that's going to be really good. You're when you can see someone's personality in the army. And don't get me wrong, there are armies out there in Age of Sigmar that you just, like, you pick up and you're like, this is me. Like, the IDK player, like, who just was like, hell yeah, finally Fish Elves. That person is totally a Fish Elves person, you know what I'm saying? But then for all those other people where it's like you want to infuse your personality into the army, you want to, you know, you take these units because I always run Black Knights in my Legions of Nagash army because I just love the skeleton cavalry. When I started playing Army Book Undead OG status, it was Mounted Whites, I believe is what they were called. Ran them, like, because they were my favorite thing. In fact, I only had one tactic back in the day. It was the biggest blocks of skeletons I could get to tie you up in combat. And back then they had a rule where, like, you had to take a bravery test when you either when they charge you or when you charge them. I can't remember what it was, if they outnumbered you. So the whole point was to outnumber you and then get you to break so that I could run you down with the cavalry. And, like, that was the only trick I had. That and, like, some awesome spells. But
yeah,
you mentioned a little bit of a thing when, like, you're walking, when, like, getting into the army, going into a store and you know, no one's asking for the crossbowmen and stuff like that. One of the things when I first got into Age of Sigmar that was really difficult to grasp, because I'm a curmudgeon and I like a physical book and a physical thing, was making an army without a book. It just was so strange to me to just be like, oh no, you're especially with death, because death is just GA death or Flesh Eater Courts, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, what's my army now? And so for a long time, I mixed up faction and allegiance and, you know, the terminology, because, like, without having a physical book, it was just, you're kind of in torpor from a planning stage forward. And so it's just, I think now that there's just that, you put it in a book, you make it real for people. Like, it's not just like an olive branch with allegiance abilities in the GHB. It is like it's a real step being taken to make this army for everybody.
Yeah, and there's so much to this book, and I think for the first time in a long time, we're going to see people stake their claim in the mortal realms. This is where God bless, for example, our fishmen, deepkin players. But where on earth in the mortal realms is their little patch of the sea?
That's a great take.
Where are they, and why is there particular models coming out of the sea to raid, and what's the story behind these armies? And I don't think you see a lot of that. There was a really good comment, I think, from one of the Measured Gaming boys. I can't remember who said it on Twitter, one of the Australian crew, and they'd said, who still models artifacts on their units anymore? Am I still the only one, or do I still do it? And I thought that's a really interesting point, because back in fantasy, if you took an amulet, you would model the amulet. You would, if you had a sword of judgment, you would always have a sword on. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to start looking at that little patch where the free city of whether it's your own narrative, whether it is going to be Hallow Hall, or it's going to be whatever, Living City. What's your narrative, and why have your free cities aligning with Sylvaneth, and what are you fighting for? And I think that narrative is going to really come out.
Yeah, so you're telling me, like, people don't model Archaon's cape onto everybody with a Thermal Rider cloak right now? I thought that was just standard operating procedure. If you're not throwing Archaon's cloak on like a mega boss on foot, what are you doing with your life?
Well, I did launch a failed Kickstarter where I was selling ethereal amulets as models, and it didn't go very well. So I'm hoping maybe when we go for the version again, people reconsider modeling.
Right. And we could give away a box on the RantCast or something.
A box of free ethereal amulets.
Amulets, yeah.
Yeah, I think Ignax Scales is the thing that people are wanting now, or maybe the what's it called? The Aetherbrot's crutch.
Quartz brooch.
Yeah, the quartz. Yeah. But it is a bit of a crutch. But yeah, anyway, I think there's a great opportunity for us to forge that narrative, but also competitive side of Sigmar, and I think that's something that people have wanted for a while. The pendulum to swing finally in the middle.
Yeah, and then like you're saying, with like, it's a physical place. You have a lot of world building that can be in this book. Like, now I know they've tried a little bit with Firestorm or whatever, but attaching it to a thing you play in the game is a lot more important than like an esoteric sort of pack of FAQ rules. Like, to actually make it face it, our game is very physical. I've got a tabletop simulator in Steam. I can play a game of Twilight Imperium if I feel like it, and nothing is lost. 8 hours of Twilight Imperium, nothing is lost in that simulator. A lot is lost in translation when you take the physicality, when you take the presence of this game physically out of it. And so I think it's very important that you attach rules. This is that verisimilitude we like to talk about it seemed like the hot topic like all last year. Seeing it works the way it should, the rules seem like how they should, and now the place seems like a place. Like, even these models are being posed in front of these modular cityscapes that they're selling in boxes now. This is really cool. In my OBR cast, I was talking about how, like, I didn't think, and I haven't read the community article yet because I wanted my rant to be fresh, hot off the presses. I want you all to get that organic, in the moment impression. But I mentioned how, like, I don't think they're getting army terrain because I think they're really kind of meant to, because, like, you're sieging their cities, or or they're on the march, and it's more about, like, the city is omnipresent, and reducing it down to a single piece of terrain, I think, undermines it. Unless they get a huge sweet cannon, like, that would have been really cool. Like, every army has a huge sweet cannon.
I don't think they are getting anything.
Huge sweet cannon.
I think there's a missed opportunity. Should they not release a terrain piece, I think there's a missed opportunity even for something like a little turret or some type of freestanding watchtower, whether it's going to be an old re-release from a fantasy kit, or something that I can just put down a couple of banners, or I could slightly tweak it to make my own. Maybe it's a living city and I get the vine kit, or kit bash some of my old Citadel woods. That could have been a nice little another token, but I appreciate the book nonetheless. I need no terrain piece to win a game.
All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that you've read the Warhammer community thing 1,000 times. Okay.
A few times, but the thing we got to remember is this is out of context. We know Sam Pearson, who has been definitely one of the lead designers in this book.
This is Cavalryman, right? He had the cavalry take. Pearson's the one who said he really wanted to change how we look at cavalry in Age of Sigmar.
I think so.
Yeah.
We made a lot of memes with him as being the reborn Sigmar. But
right.
But you know, we've got on record that the scrolls are going to be rewritten, some more than others. Where there's some just a keyword change, some will significantly change.
Just make executioners explode on modified sixes. Fucking fixed. Change that war scroll.
That could be one of the many things. So looking at some of these rules, it's like it can get you, I guess, salivating for the book. But remember that things are going to change. So there are going to be opportunities. So yes, I have read it, but no, I'm not planning out my tactics, because you can see there are differences just between Firestorm versus what is being released.
See, and that would be the worst case scenario, is if this is Firestorm 2.0, just like Firestorm was a beta test and then they just released kind of Firestorm again without really thinking about Allegiance abilities and going in depth. Because face it, like, you look at Allegiance abilities now versus just like +3 movement for, you know, what, the Tempest Eye, you know, 3-inch movement and +1 to save. Like, there's like Allegiance abilities just do so much more now. There's just a lot of them on armies, if that, you know. So like, to just have the one thing. And I don't think they're going to do that. From what I've skimmed, I think they're going to actually.
Well, we know they're bringing in artifacts. We know there's a whole range of things. The fact that we've now got a rule that an endless spell cast from a free city wizard gets to count as if it was cast from the realm. So the Quicksilver Swords, for example, instead of rolling 12 dice for sixes, rolling 15 for sixes. So and then you put it against a chaos unit and you're rolling 15 dice going for fives.
Yeah,
and that's a mortal wound. So are we going to see different introductions of the meta? Are we going to see Life Swarm come in and start healing D6? Are we going to start seeing shackles with a 9-inch kind of range from each shackle? So it does bring a different element to the game on top of all of the war scrolls. And you see Jack Armstrong, for example, put up a tweet the other day where I think he had 15 or 19 demigryphs in a box and said nothing to see here.
Mm-hmm.
So do we see the old demigryphs of 8th edition, which were like a 2-up save? Do we see battle line demigryphs that are just going to be hard as nails? Who knows?
Yeah, right. And was that Warsoren? Like, it being GA order again isn't that bad, because LON is basically GA death. And really, I've said it before, like, the LON book, the further we get away from it, I think it just seems like a worse and worse book. But it did kind of set the template. It was the alpha test for these books we've seen coming forward, where it's kind of a bunch of stuff. I don't like the term soup book, because I feel like people think soup is synonymous with homogenous, but like really just bringing some legacy stuff into the now. That with Gitz, I think, is a really great example of what that looks like, because you have all the new awesome shit, new models and everything. And then you have, like, Troggoths if you feel like playing with them, and Spiderfang, hey, we're not going to leave you in the dust behind, so, like, you can still play your Spiderfang. Like, that, I think Gitz is, like, kind of like a great best-case scenario of what this type of book can look like. Skaven would be, like, close to that, except for the, people disputing the power level, right? So that would be where they messed up there. So I think Cities is just... From everything I've read, I think this is going to be great. And what you were talking about with that one ability for spells, I don't want to say it's a meta changer, but it's a meta changer. Like, that's the sort of thing where every army is going to have to be aware of it, because the counterplay for that is we're going to start seeing people pulling mages back into their army that shouldn't be bringing mages and stuff like that, just so that they can unbind wizards. Sorry. Because if you can't unbind the anywhere spell portal, you're going to have a bad time. Like things like that where, what is a 15-inch move? It's a 15-inch move, Purple Sun. It becomes it gains another like 6 inches or something like that.
I'm just pulling up
Crazy.
some war scrolls. I'm pulling up some war scrolls now for endless spells. But if you look at some of the endless spells, I think about the Emerald Life Swarm, something that we rarely see on the table. You put that in a realm, and it becomes very viable. It becomes a very attractive offer, especially if you start kind of healing up your griffins, your steam tanks. There's so many cool monsters in under this book. What could you do?
Right. Right. Yeah. So
Add some Stormcast in as well, and you've got a very competitive, attractive looking army.
Right. Right. And the fact that they said that Stormcast are just going to be able to go into a city's army, like you're just going to be able to have your Stormcast, so you can give them that backbone or the modern model range that you kind of dig, and cover up some weaknesses. But sticking with this spell take, why it's, I think, just kind of that on its face value is a bit of a meta changer. Is you're going to have wizards and armies that don't belong, but now you're going to make something like Khorne, which already has some pretty some free counters, look a little bit more appealing in matchups against cities. They've actually got a murder host or whatever that gets an extra dispel, and they can mortal wound you if if they roll that 8 on their unbind check. It auto unbinds and they mortal wound you on a D6 mortals. Like that.
D3, I think it is.
D3.
Because I actually did play a game against Doom and Darkness about a month or two ago, and I was playing with my gits with a very heavy endless spell list, and that's literally what happened. Was 1, there was negatives to cast. 2, on a natural 8, which I did twice, it did D3 mortal wounds, and my Grot wizards are really 4 wound models. That was popping rocks. My wizards were dying from itself. To answer Andrew Yell's question, do your wizards buff every single endless spell, or is it just certain cities? From my understanding, it is any endless spell cast from a Cities of Sigmar wizard.
Yeah. So it's not going to
counts as if.
Yeah. So it's a you thing. It's not a global thing. So when you're playing that army, everybody gets that buff. It's the benefits. It's the City of Sigmar's wizards. Does that mean then? Well, yeah. So then, like a Lord Arcanum who comes into your army, if they do it right, they're going to get the city's tag because of the rule we've seen where you're supposed to be able to bring Sigmar units into your city. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That seems pretty awesome. And then again, so Khorne now looks a little bit more appealing. Fire Slayers looks a little bit more appealing.
Zench,
yeah. Nagash maybe, who's been moving away from the table. No, he's not going to come back because he'll just fucking shoot him off the table. but he'll think about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think and the thing that I'm most excited about is putting my free guild guard on the table and putting down some crossbowmen and some handgunners, and Slaanesh can't make me fight last if I shoot it off the board. Right. Pop down some Hellbot rocket batteries, shooting off without not requiring line of sight. Or maybe I'm putting my +3 to the range characteristic from an Iron Wield kind of city. We've got a stand and shoot rule currently if you end your charge within 3. So, and we did a shot before combat. So, who knows if those rules will still exist in the new world, but know that there's a lot of interesting counters in the meta within this book. And it's such a, I think, I can't remember who put it out on Twitter. I saw recently that the range itself is only a few units shy of the Stormcast, which is a massive book. Mm-hmm. So you can live in this book for a long time and diversify your list very easily and always change with the meta and try new combos.
Right, and that's one of the things I like to talk about is giving people that, I arbitrarily say 1 year, spending 1 year with your army and being able to gain that next tier of knowledge about your army, because at some point you go, okay, now I have problems now that I've identified for my army. How do I fix that? How do I adjust? And from that, once you start sort of turning gears on that, you start to gain a really in-depth knowledge of not just your army, but other people's armies, because now you're looking to solve problems. And to actually have a book that allows you to do that for a year is very good. And this is exactly what this book is going to do. On the other hand, it's going to be a bit of a money sink, though. A lot of these models are web exclusive, Games Workshop only, you're not going to be seeing the deep cut like uh, you know
The
sales and
store
stuff.
discount. Yeah, at the same time, I imagine your buy and sells and your eBays are a great place if you're thinking about jumping into this and you're price restricted. I would be on here ASAP, because there are people who don't want to go through the task of rebasing their models, or maybe you buy a little sonic cleaner and you wash off an old paint job. Um, but it's a low entry point. If you want to, they've released 2 new getting started boxes. I know my local game store, the Games Cube, still has the old box from 2 years ago, where they released that Christmas box set of the free cities. So I think there was Anvilgard and Hammer Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get some still pretty discounted models there as well.
Yeah, plus I can see it. I see like a little internal Cities economy forming, where like Cities players are like, okay, I've been playing with my Ironweld for a little while, but now I want to try out something else. And then like you find the guy who's like tired of like their something else, and you're swapping models and stuff. I can see this little internal economy within the Cities happening, which is actually really kind of funny when you think of.
It's basically slavery, isn't it? We're trading people for people.
Something like that. I mean, I was gonna go like a little bit different take, but yeah, I mean, you're. It's a trades, like you're gonna be. I can see like like model swaps and this little internal.
I can see kit bashing swaps. I can see.
Yeah.
I'm a very big fan of the feather in the cap, and I love my puffy shirts. And if I can find more people who want to share their feathers they're not going to use, there's definitely going to be some bits trading that people want to build more iron will type things. They're looking for more cogs and more ways to make a more mechanical style, and maybe bringing in. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, or like they want their Griff riders, but they want dwarves riding instead, or so you're gonna see some of that, like, oh yeah, like I'm running this army, this rules, and most of these models, but I'm gonna bash them all to be elves. I'm gonna bash them all to be dwarves. I'm gonna bash them all to look like a D&D party, like zoomed out. So you have, this is the fighter unit and stuff.
I've had a dream for a long time that I'm very lazy in executing this one. But I always wanted to put down. So there was an old Empire Knights unit called Knights of the White Wolf, which were more of a feral, Middenheim kind of, Cult of Ulrich. They kind of had great warhammer as opposed to the traditional lance and swords. But I always wanted to put them on the big space wolf, like Thunder Cav. And so as opposed to having like a demigriff, they are riding a big wolf. I've seen people swap out the chicken head from the griff. Where am I going? The demigriffs, and putting the heads of the white lions, I think it is, from the high elf kits. They look fantastic.
Right.
I have a dream that one day I'll get up my ass into gear and I will convert.
I have a dream.
Yeah.
One day.
I have a dream, but this one's a lazy one because it's a metal model. But I want to convert my Frost Phoenix, instead of having like a high elf model on there. I want to put the old Ice Queen of Kislev sitting up there. So again, a more free city kind of model as opposed to an elf.
Well, and talking about the bit swap and these conversions, this is why I say this is the most important book for 2.0. And I say it from an adversarial, like, I'm Nagash all the way and I hate you, Empire bastards. But it's the most important book. This is the outsider objective, because of you're gonna like I do foresee this like little internal bit swap economy, and the bringing the hobby to the table in all the ways you're going to see it. Because when you have those 3 spheres of AOS combined, I think that's when you have the best stuff. And narrative is kind of like a weird outlier, because I don't necessarily believe in narrative rules on the table. But like having a narrative for your army, which is what I talked about with Andrew Yells on my two episodes ago. But having a narrative through that army, you want your dwarves on bears. That's gonna make me go, well, why are they on bears when like you line up again, like you deploy across from me on a tournament? Now I want to know.
Yeah.
Like taking.
So I'm running Sydney GT, and you might see some terrain. And I was talking about my dog near the terrain. Mm-hmm. But in my tournament, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm rewarding a tournament point for people who submit named characters on their army list.
Hell yeah!
So not just your Alariel the Everqueens. I'm talking about you have customized and named your Free Guild General on horse. You've put a name to that Amber Wizard. And I think that is something that is truly rewarding when you stake your claim in the mortal realms, wherever it's from. and you bring that to your hobby.
Yeah, I'm stealing that if I ever run a tournament again.
It's just 1 point.
1 point. Yep. Yeah,
but it's something small, and when someone gives me their army list and it has a name of a goblin wizard, and they've named it something, whether it's from the name generator or they've pulled it from somewhere, often I'll ask, what's the background behind this? Why have you done this? And some people go as far as they maybe one of their wizards or one of their heroes have slain a model in battle, and they've gone on and then customized and put a skull or a bit on that model to represent the heroic efforts of that unit. So
thanks, Andrew Yells, for getting freaking Space Lord that song stuck in my head. You son of a bitch. Black Axe, mother, father. Like, I can only hear that song now to that tune. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Sorry about that. Yeah, so
I love that. Davis Ford said at Nova, my champion was Doris the Saurus. Love it. Love it.
Doris the Saurus, or like Thesaurus. Is she always like speaking in like synonyms? Like every time like someone like says, you're like correcting them with the synonym or something. That would be really funny. Like I mentioned. Oh man, here's a deep tangent. I mentioned something along to some TO. I'm like, if I show up in full like cosplay and like RP my persona at the table, will I get extra tournament points? It was this for Nova, I think, and they're like, yes. And I'm like,
yeah, Nova's the place. I'm actually looking at buying the old Renaissance hat with the feather, and I'm thinking about it for CanCon, but it's going to be 40 degrees, which I'm sure is like 1,000,000 degrees in American conversion.
Yeah. It is in fact 40 degrees Australia is like 4 million American. It's really hot. It's unbearable.
Ball sweating hot.
You might as well be on the sun. It's the fucking worst.
Sydney GT last year, I had Sam Morgan from the Dwellers Below, I think it was. He had named all of his hag queens. I think he had like 5 hag queens in his list, all African American gangster rappers like Cardi B. I'm not in that kind of field, but I remember seeing like Missy Elliott, and I was seeing, I don't know, I'm gonna embarrass myself here, but just even that's just fun. It's just fun to see all these gangster rappers as your hag queens.
Yeah, no, I'm totally showing up dressed like either just Skeletor or like a necromancer if I ever go to Nova, and I'm gonna have like some friend come along dressed like a skeleton. And they're going to move my models for me, and I'm just going to, like, sit back and, like, point and gesture.
I did dress up like a necromancer for Sydney Slaughter 2018 when I was running my Legion of Night. It was a lot of fun, then I got really hot. But it was a bit,
Like, I like, the thing is like, the persona of like, the lazy necromancer is what I really relish. Like, super evil and, like, lazy. Like in Diablo 2, I would never fight when I would play Diablo 2. I would just run around and picking up the loot, but that's only because I couldn't order my skeletons to pick up the loot for me. Man, man, what a tangent. No, so yeah,
and you said this was going to be a small chat. We're now 42 minutes.
We're not. Yeah. So one of the big high points of this for everybody is like, look at this complement of battle line. So you got your Hydras and your Charybdis. You've got steam. Is that a freaking steam tank I see?
It is a steam tank. The theory is that in the steam tank kit there is a character that you might be able to put on the top, and that would be battle line if your general is a steam tank, or it could be an Iron Wield thing. But if you want to have a steam tank as a battle line, good on you. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, let's go. Well, now you're taking me, like, now I'm having, like, flashbacks to, like, 4th and 5th ed, it was at 5th ed 40K, where, you had tank squads for IG. It was just, like, it was just cancer. It was the worst thing. But I'm liking that I see Cold One Riders here. I don't know what's their name now? They've got a different name. They're always Cold One Riders to me.
Drake Spawn. I'm sure
Drake Spawn. Yeah, Drake Spawn Knights. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. Executioners, parking lot.
You've got a whole range of cool things, and I think you're going to see a combination. Warhammer Weekly with 2+ Tough yesterday had a bit of a game around the battle line. Guess this model. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. You'll have some battle line if you are a city, some battle line if your general is blah. So
Right. Iron
the world is
Drake's
your
in there.
oyster. Yeah.
Iron Drake's in there. Sweet. Yeah. So really good range of stuff you can be. This is where they talk about you can represent the Stormcast Eternals. So you're just gonna have like some tools in your army. It'll be pretty sweet. Do we see Stormcast itself kind of erode to see more cities with Stormcast models in it? Do you think?
So I've heard a rumor, and I haven't seen this documented anywhere. It's just a rumor that Stormcast will have a restriction that it's 1 in 4. So not treated as an ally, but you can't have like 90% of your army as a Stormcast, and that's obviously to represent the eliteness of the Stormcast as opposed to the generic free people or the elves or the Duarden. So I don't know if that's true or not, but
some sort of limit to stop this from being like mostly a Stormcast army with like exactly what you're missing or whatever.
Yeah.
And
there's some great rules in there, but also it's this is a very narrative driven book, so I think the narrative of Stormcast being the elite heroes of the cities and coming in at the last minute, or real defenders. If they're going to defend a city, they need those generic battle line to be pulling their weight.
Oh, yeah,
they're not the first line of defense.
Yeah, it's like the awesome Malign Portent story with the Beastclaw Raiders, and like they're assaulting the human city, and like the Stormcast guys are like, well, we're fucked, and they just kind of like know they're gonna get reforged, and then just the entire city is mowed down, and so like they're just like that sort of like, well, I mean, kind of like in the lore, like the lightning bolt was thrown down to defend the mortal city, right? And you just get a contingent of your Stormcast Eternals. It would fix a lot of Stormcast problems, but I'd rather see them fix Stormcast itself, Frank?
Yeah. Look. Stormcast have a book every 3 months, so
it's coming.
It's taken me 4 years to get a book. They can wait just a few. Let me have my 15 minutes.
I agree.
Let me enjoy my book before we get another Stormcast book.
I agree. Ironically, I think this is the most necessary a new book for them has been. Because the other ones were just kind of like to have a new book, and it's like, actually no, right now is when you actually need one. But bring everybody up.
Frank says fifth time a charm.
Yeah, maybe the 5th time's the charm. No, bring everybody up. I mean, that's a very important theme, I think, of this year for releases from Games Workshop, is like bring everybody up, bring everyone to the table. And I think that's super important. They already had their year of record-breaking profits and growth. Last year, more than doubled their profits, most of it in the Age of Sigmar sector. Bring more people to the table, bring everybody up, and then you can work on, making whatever the Fishmen equivalent of Dark Elves and High Elves are, right? Whatever the next thing is.
What's the old saying? Rising tide lifts all boats. So the lifts of the free cities, and also the orc clans and the ogres getting their own books as well. They're going to bring a whole new dynamic, and people are going to need to look at their armies a little bit differently to re-deal with the cunning ruck that I think a lot of people have forgotten about how hard a cunning ruck is. It's been a while. You're going to start to see other people like the change hosts, and they're going to forget how hard a change host is. And I think this is going to change the way we look at things. May put Zench back into Slaanesh back into balance a little bit. Might help disarm those Daughters of Cain's.
So I'm worried about, and this is a small tangent. When I was on Vincent's show, he thought Slaanesh were fine, and he doesn't think they're a problem. Kind of like what happened to Nagash. DOK are standing there, and they're obviously the bigger problem. And then Nagash just gets fucking smashed in essentially a meta change. So rules changed with the new GHB to like limit some of the abusive stuff they were doing, and then all the points changed. Plus the meta had already shifted away. Plus there's some new natural predators in the wild suddenly, and you don't just take Nagash from like S tier army to like 1.5 tier. He dropped like all the way down. Nagash himself is shelf tier. Death March, the Bone Electric slide, as I like to call it. Death March, I think, is still relatively competitive. It doesn't have all the answers with the activation wars, but a 20 block of Black Knights survive most things activating twice before them, and then fully buff, pretty much blow it off the table. So there's like the fear for Slaanesh right now is this a natural predator, right? Is City of Sigmar going to be the natural predator that like takes some steam out of, or takes some wind out of the sails of Slaanesh? If so, how much of a natural predator? How much of it are we going to see? And I think with Bone Splitters 2 coming back, you've got two natural predators that are essentially entering the fray for Slaanesh. So you've got these two natural predators, but how much of them are we going to see? I posit we're going to see a shit ton of cities. I think just like Skaven, a bunch of people have their cities armies just still waiting around. They might even have circle bases already. Maybe they don't. So you're going to see them show up in the meta immediately, just like we saw Skaven. But just like Skaven, you're not going to see the ideal Skaven build right away. You're not going to see people's full experimental cities builds. There's going to be a little, because they're going to play with what they have first, and then they're going to start tooling. And that's where cities is going to sit for a little while. And if Slaanesh is also going to get some points nerfs with this 6 month, I call it a patch, the 6 month patch that's going to come down, the points changes we're supposed to get halfway through. If they overcorrect right there, Slaanesh could actually be in a really terrible spot. So I'd like... No,
we don't normally get points changes in mid-year. The points change happens at the General's Handbook.
Well, the big winner FAQ.
We get two FAQs.
Yeah, the two FAQs. Sorry.
Look, we've talked for the last 9 months of constant content creators out there have been saying shooting's coming back, shooting's coming back, shooting's coming back,
and it didn't really,
and it hasn't yet.
Skaven kind of.
Skaven acolytes, and Skaven is quite damaging. We saw Courage and Overlords do really well. I think was it CCBB, or there was a Canadian tournament. It was the Canhammer one maybe. But we haven't really seen shooting come back. But in the next fortnight, we're going to chuck in Cunning Rock. We're going to be chucking in a whole bunch of, whether it's the Lead Belcher Ogres coming in the near future. We're going to have so much shooting from the free cities, whether it's the long range war machines, whether it's the short range or mid range, handgunners, crossbowmen, all the elf and the dwarf shooters. All of a sudden, that 2+ fight last, you're fighting against a keeper that is either half wounded or could be dead. Again, I think about my musicians, my free guild handgunners and crossbowmen get to shoot before combat.
Yeah, in the charge phase. Musician. Yeah, right.
Yeah, at the end of the charge. So that means I've traditionally normally got 30 handgunners and or 30 crossbowmen who usually are buffed up. So they're doing about 3 to hit, 3 to wound, or 2 to hit, 3 to wound, depending if there's a hurricane or things like that. But that like I've dealt with flesh eater courts and a charging terrorgeist who dies before they've swung.
Yeah.
That's the option that is now available to. And I remember playing Legion of Night, and I used to get really frustrated with things like Plague Monks because you got to shoot them, but a lot of death doesn't have shooting, and if it is, it's not good.
No, we don't have shooting. We don't have shooting. Quote unquote spells is our shooting, but the premium on spells to be shooting or ranged is so much higher than a model like an Ungor Raider. It's shitty shooting, but with a proper screen, you're gonna whittle down the threats. So, it's so going back to your question, is this going to be the Apex Predator to Slaanesh? No. Is it the Apex Predator to anybody? No. Is it going to be the utility knife that can always go 3-2 or 4-1 at a tournament because it has the tools to handle magic shooting combat, has the bodies, has the elite units, can pull in a whole pool of great resources from whether Stormcast or within the city itself? I think you have a very flexible and adaptable army, almost like the Gloomspite Gits, where it's a very flexible book and you can really do as much as little as you want, but it's going to take time. Yeah, there's two really strong builds in that GSG book, but it took us a while to see them. I bet you I'm just going to arbitrarily throw out 4 for this book. I think there's going to be 4 like really strong builds out the gate. We're not going to see them right away, and then we are, and it's just going to be like, oh shit, I don't think the meta should sweat cities because I don't, like you said, it's a very narrative-driven book. They are I hope, as long as they're doing like common sense, like updates to War Scrolls, just bringing them up to the new language, to Age of Sigmar 2 now. We're in a 2nd edition here. Like, it's bring all that stuff up to date. You know, we've got some language that we've been playing with. We've got the activation wars. As long as they just bring that stuff up to just new language, new rules, I think they're going to have a ton of tools. But I don't think they're going to be able to do it all with one army, and that's when you're disgusting. Like Skaven, that's the thing.
I don't want that. I do not want. My greatest fear for Age of Sigmar over the last 4 years since I've been a part of the game is that this becomes the arms race that is 40k. And the reason I'm not interested in joining 40k, as much as I have a beautiful 3,000, 4,000 point Sisters of Battle that's sitting on the bottom of my shelf, I have not touched it. Because the meta changed so often that it just becomes an arms race and people are just getting higher and higher and it gets crazy. What I don't want is people releasing a new book that goes, oh, well, Slaanesh is broken. We're going to create something even more weird and wacky.
Well, that's the worst way to do it.
Overpower Slaanesh. And it's like, okay, well, now we need to overpower that. And it just becomes this really unenjoyable game. And I think the beauty has been is that most armies in Age of Sigmar have had a fighting chance since day one, and they still have a fighting chance in the right hands.
Yeah, see, I mean, go ahead. Yeah, finish.
We laugh at Beastcaller Raiders, but they can still go 2 and 3 or 3 and 2. They're not unplayable, and I think there are some 40k factions that become unplayable until the meta changes again, and that's what I don't want.
I'll disagree a little bit because, like, you know, Slaves to Darkness exists, and like there are some unplayable, you know, little old stuff that barely counts. And Beastclaw Raiders, if you're in the wrong store, you're just gonna get your ass kicked for 1 calendar year. You know, like if you're in the Joe, the better player than me, has not beat my Death Army in going on 2 years now. He's never beaten it with Beastclaw Raiders. He beat me when I played Stormcast once, but like it's like, ah, man. Yeah,
that's not to say that every army can win in every situation against every opponent. But do you have a fighting chance? Yes, you do. Is it an uphill battle in some situations? Yes, it is. You know, and that's why you're not seeing Beastclaw Raiders, you know, winning any tournaments at the moment. But are they unplayable? No, people are still submitting lists and having fun and running their armies, and they're still winning games. Are they winning 4 games out of tournament? No. But are they still winning? Yes.
My take is simply, if I were to refine it, is that polarizing matchups. When your army just has that, like, you just have like a polarizing win-loss, like the way Beastclaw does, like, you have a lot of opportunities to lose with you have a lot more opportunities to lose with Beastclaw than you do to win. And when that becomes a much higher threshold beyond some other armies, that's where it's not awesome. So, no, really, I do think we're kind of this fat middle meta that we're talking about, that's kind of become the hot topic of late. I think we're still living in that, and we just have a couple outliers. And that's, for the most part, the way I look at it. And I think this game is a success if most armies are 3-2 armies with a chance to go 4-1, you know? Like, and then 5-0 if you get lucky and you play out of your mind. That's the sweet spot.
4-1 and 5-0, or even 6-0 if you're playing at a six game tournament, should be based on the people who have
the really experts, the true.
They've honed their craft. They are masters level players. These are people who are practicing on a weekly basis, 1 or 2 or 3 games a week. People who are doing lots of list studying. You know, not someone who just grabs a whole bunch of Daughters of Cain and pushes them up the table and wins because...
Well, like a year ago, Daughters of Cain was just... That's not where we live right now, right?
And that's good. That's where we want to live. We want to live in this world.
Right. And so going forward, again, I've got a lot of optimism for going forward. There are going to be things that are out of whack just from the sheer volume in the release schedule right now for Games Workshop. But I would rather them release all the shit, let people play the game, and then, like, hammer some stuff back into place afterwards, you know? Like, just get us our stuff. Get us our new stuff. And while you were kind of talking about, like, what you didn't want to have happen to your army, I don't want that to happen with Bone Reapers. I'm super excited. If they come out and they're the new Slaanesh, I'm just going to, like, be so depressed for, like... No, I'm going to be really, really happy for, like, a few months. But I'm just going to have this, like... this thing on my shoulder that's whispering in my ear every time I'm winning, like, hey, you know that huge nerf's coming soon, right? Hey. You don't want to go into an army and have that feeling. I think that's one of the worst feelings when you're super excited about something, you get called out for being a bandwagoner or whatever. Because first off, everyone's a bandwagon fan. You start out jumping on a bandwagon at some point in your life. If you stay on it, you're just a fan, and you got to give up people opportunity to stay on the wagon before you just fucking pan them for being a bandwagon fan. So like you're gonna have that if your army's the busted, bent, obviously gross thing. That just negative experience for the player wanting to genuinely play the thing they love or the thing they're interested in. That sort of negative pushback is disgusting to me.
Well, that's why I was not concerned with my Gloomspite Gits leading into the General's Handbook 19, is because I think it's a well-balanced book. I think the points were generously fair. Yeah. I don't think there was anything that was too broken. And moving into it, the biggest impacts were actually the endless spells that I was choosing. I think my characters might have gone up 10 points or gone down 10 points. Otherwise, things didn't really change. And that's the world that I would like to live in moving forward.
Yeah. And I mean, with LON, I'm like, I hope they're smart about this. And then they weren't smart about it. I'm like, oh, like they did that thing where they didn't just hit one thing. They went through and they just hit a bunch of shit in my army. And I'm like, this was unnecessary. And we were already like dropping off. The Nagash build was not the hot build. It was just the obvious build. And even if they had just said, hey, we're nerfing Nagash because he's an iconic character and we don't think he should see the table as much as he does, I'd been like, cool, awesome. To tell me he was overpowered at that point cost, no. The thing that sucks about him, I won't go into it, but basically realm spells. There's no way to.
Well, the Legions of Nagash got the triple nerf that Beastclaw Raiders got.
KO got it too.
I mean, Beastclaw got it the worst when you think about they got the points increase on things like Stonehorns. The meta obviously changed with the scenarios based around more models, and then you fact that things like the way that you calculate the Stonehorn wound characteristic. That all changed in one fast swoop.
Yeah. LON got a little bit of that. Yeah.
And I think to maybe to close out, this will be a rant in itself for hours. But to close at least my opinion out, I look at what Dadhammer said, Luke Stone had said around CanCon, and Swifthawk Agents went 3-0 in the first day of CanCon, the world's largest event. And people were watching the Honest Wargamer stream, watching Paul Grixty go 3-0 with Swifthawk Agents, and we're all going, what the F? Paul's one of my club mates. I play him, and I'm still like, what the F? How are you doing this?
Playing out his mind.
But for the last 4 years, all he has played is Bretonia, Swifthawk Agents, a little bit of Sylvaneth, and I think Wanderers. Maybe he's got one more of the older factions. That's all he's played. He's a master of these armies, and he finally gets to apply his craft in a well-balanced field, and he went 3-0. So good on him, and that's the world that I live in, and I'd love to continue living in. But I do recognize that it's not. There's obviously going to be strong armies and broken armies. But
well, there's always going to. I like to say there's always going to be the big three. A year ago, I would have said there's always going to be the big two. Because. When I first started, it was Clown Car and it was KO were like the two like dreaded armies. They were just it. You can always look back at there's what was it? Vanguard, not Vanguard Wing. The fucking
the Warrior Brotherhood.
Yeah. You always have you always have your big two, and now there's so many more armies now that I've just shifted the number up to the big three. You're always gonna have the big three. You're always gonna have those just the big three. Stuff, but as long as the rest of us can live in that comfortable position where you've got a shot with what you bring, you don't have an auto loss when you walk up to the table for the majority of your matches, that's a good place to live. Like you walk up and you go, I actually don't have the tools to beat this army. I played one of my lists. I walk up to a table against Slanesh at Midwest Meltdown, and I'm like, I do not have the tools to beat this army, and to have that like, okay, so then. The advice becomes play to the objectives, right? Is what I tell anybody who's outmatched via the army. I say, okay, now play the table. And like that would be it. And I'm like, no, I really can't even play the table. Like it's fucking over at deployment. The best I could do is deploy. Like if I deploy backline, I completely concede all the objectives, and I'm pinned in my deployment. So I have to play up, and I have to hope for the double. And that's a terrible place to like. I hate that. Like. For that to become your strategy. Playing to your outs is what it's called in Magic the Gathering. You play to your out. Playing to your out or playing to the table is what I call an Age of Sigmar. It's like but going forward, I don't think that's going to be the norm. I don't think it is right now with every book that's essentially come out. Certainly with AOS 2.0 in mind, I think they all have like at least a puncher's chance of having good matchups.
Yeah, there's very as long as that choice is made at list submission and it's not something that you just don't have a chance to fight with. Like if I've foregone shooting, for example, because I want to kind of buff up my wizards, then that's a decision that I've made that hopefully will play off, and in some situations that won't play off, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, no, I think bringing it back to cities, bringing it back to the Moor tribes, bringing it back to the Orc war clans, I think
bringing them
up. You're going to see some old models coming back that people maybe haven't touched since GBH 17 or 18. I think it's going to create a bit of diversity. I think people maybe from the old world may reconsider rebasing their old models, or maybe going out and starting afresh. I am now actually rebuying my models again, despite having years and years and years of models. I would like to retry it with the new skills that I have as a painter. So
yeah, and that comes back to like moving it away from tournament talk, and now I've repeated this point like 3 times, but now I'm going to actually like the hobby potential for this army might be the highest in any. It's just going to be a fat book to go with the fat middle meta. So we got universal allegiance abilities. So you're going to be, if you're cities, you're going to have your allegiance abilities across the table, like any proper army. And then from there, so this is where your endless spells thing is pretty busted and awesome. And you're going to then see some tailored specific allegiance abilities based on your city. And I imagine that's a little bit like Great Phrase in Beasts of Chaos or enclaves or temples or something like that. So those are probably going to take that position. Maybe it's going to be based on hero selection, or you give up something. You have to take artifacts from this list instead of that list.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah. So it's hitting all the right notes for me. Like what I've seen. Do you have anything on like allegiance abilities you'd like to kind of cover or mention?
Not quite. Just because they've only started releasing or drip feeding a few of them. I know Tempest Eye's been out. I think they put out the Anvil Guard, the Phoenician. There's a couple of them have been put out so far, and I think there's some interesting ones. I like the 3-inch range addition to the Iron Willed Arsenal that makes those handgunners who are a 16-inch, 19-inch, or a crossbow which is 18 into 21.
You go from basically it's the difference between getting alpha'd and pumping some bullets into somebody before you get alpha'd. Like
I remember playing.
It turns you into a good counterpunch army. Like you actually become like full counterpunch. And
so. Yeah, like I remember my free guild really struggled against. There was a gentleman called Alistair who is a awesome player up in Queensland. And at CanCon, I couldn't handle him because he was playing that traditional shoot cast eternal with all the long strikes and the hurricanes, and that range threat was just too great for me. So adding +3 range to that, or +3 range to a volley gun or the rocket battery doesn't really need it, but that really increases that threat. But then at the same time, Tempest Eye gives me +3 to the move and +1 save for the first round. Great for stealing objectives. Awesome to run them up forward and have that additional save to mitigate risk. The Phoenician, I think they get +1 to hit to wound, or they re-roll their hits and wounds if a unit dies that turn. So that really rewards MSU type builds to have this whole massive vat of like 10-man or 5-man units. So. And then Anvil Guard's got some really interesting ones. I could generate D3 command points, take an extra artifact.
So that's the best one, the one that generates the command points. Got it.
After playing Gloomspite Gits for the last 9 to 12 months, I want to reduce the amount of randomness that's happened. It's very hard to play in a tournament when you roll 4d6, and you roll 5. There's only so much planning and counterplay you can have when the dice fail you.
But that's what GSG does, though. I mean, if they fail you gloriously, then you don't get any of your command points. But when you have the command points, they mitigate all the other randomness. failing runs. Now with the new command abilities to re-roll those ones for shooting or for melee, re-rolling ones to save, like, they mitigate that randomness when you get the command points. That's what they do. That's what that resource does. And so that's like a weird sort of counterpoint to GSG randomness.
I just want the 3, not the D3. Just, I'm sick of rolling dice for random goodness.
Fair enough.
Just give me the straight 3.
2.
But yeah, anyway.
Give you the 2. Give you the average.
All right, I'm happy with 2. But either way, I think the cities are going to be great. But let's see the restrictions and how you've got to build them out. And then what those artifacts are and other complementary systems that come with it.
And here's a weird take. So I think they've got all the stuff. It's just all the right stuff. Like when they talk about like pitchers in baseball, like they've got the stuff, which refers to their kit for throwing pitches. They've got all the stuff. And if they're out of whack or they're out of tune, it's written in such a way you can kind of fix it. Like maybe now you don't do battle line if this guy, now that battle line is for every one of the city's armies. You've got, they really just leave it up to fixes that can be done really easily with an FAQ, as opposed to some of these fixes where you're like, okay, full on errata, now the book doesn't make sense type changes, Like it really is just switching battle line if here and there, switching what hero needs to be selected. Yeah, it's just, you're going to be able to see some of those easy modular fixes going forward. This book has a lot of life if the rules that I'm seeing that are written intelligently for the current game are just throughout the whole book. If what I'm seeing so far is just that's the fulcrum for how they've written this book, I think it's really exciting. But now I've got a really important question for you. So you're coming up for Midwest Meltdown, right? Or was
it's very, very, very likely. So I have a wedding on the week prior.
Okay. So it's Midwest Meltdown, and we're going to be on a team for the teams game. So you can't leave me hanging. Are you bringing your Gloomspite Gits, or is it going to be Death and Empire together at last?
I think it'll be the cities. So Gloomspite is likely retired next month, maybe. So
okay.
I have two tournaments. So I'm running Sydney GT in October. I have 2 weddings in October, and then at the start of November, I have a teams event which has 104 players up in Queensland. 2 weeks after that, I have a traditional 2,000 point event. So
man, what a docket.
I will either run my old free guild or my old models, or I've gone out and bought a whole range of new models. 40 of these Forge World swordsmen. I would like to redo my kits. So don't know. I might do some testing because CanCon comes up in January. So I may try some War Machine.
Can you, an Empire, like the lifelong OG Empire player, does it make your skin crawl to think you might be allied with Bone Reapers?
In the box?
No, I mean you and me at Midwest Meltdown.
I mean, the story is about the blood tie, right? Not the blood tie, the sacrifice.
The tithe of bones. The tithe of bones. Yeah, we're coming to extract our toll.
Maybe this is the way that we repay our debt. I don't know.
Yeah, we might have to come up with a good narrative. Otherwise, it's like goat men, and I don't know if you want to play with my goats.
No, we'll stick to death.
Stick to death. Okay, I'll stay on brand.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of times where Nagash and
in the end times,
death they allied to support the cities to defend chaos.
Oh yeah,
and we know Nagash doesn't like chaos, so there's an ally there somewhere.
Yeah, Nagash and Sigmar were the one story where he's talking to God damn it, wizard from the old world. What's his name? Gets stabbed with a dagger, and that basically causes the end times. Manfred fucking cuts him when he's casting the big spell. Can't remember.
Did he kill the Grand Theogonist?
I can't remember. I'm so bad on end times lore because I didn't play during that time period. So I'm like retroactively catching back up.
I've had a mind blank. I'm now cities.
Yeah, you're all cities. Okay, no. Well, Luke's right there. He's right there. He can solve this.
Luke can step up finally.
But no, So Balthazar Gelt. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like basically, Sigmar's talking to might be Balthazar Gelt.
To be honest with you, I didn't actually want to admit it because I'm rebuilding a Balthazar Gelt, and I just didn't want to admit it because I don't want him to die. pretend he didn't die.
Fair enough. But no, they're basically sort of talking about, like, Sigmar, and he's like, weren't you once friends with Nagash? And like, Sigmar just, like, looks at the sunset, and he's, like, super sad. He's like, yes, we were once bros. Like, it's like, so, like, there's that, like, it's still kind of, I think that love is still kind of there, because Sigmar is basically Zeus, and Nagash is Hades. Like, they're brothers, but they're just not on the same wavelength, even though they once were, where they fought the Titans. Yes, I just did a Greek mythology geek moment for you, everybody. You're welcome. No, Luke did bring up another good point. He talked about this RPG that's going to be coming out, the Age of Sigmar RPG, which a lot of us D&D nerds we're ready to fucking play Age of Sigmar. Another thing that makes the Cities book, I think, so important is what it does for the world building. It gives us a lot of information about the world and where it is that RPG then gets to use a little bit. And so that's really cool. So this book is just, I'm hyped for this book, even if I'm never going to play a single model of it, except for maybe Executioners, because I love them. They're awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall it's going to be one of the most important world-building assets that we have since Games Workshop released that short 7-minute video about the realms, about how the realm of light and shadow kind of works, and the all the interdependencies.
Yeah, and they showed the map.
I think that first map was really the first time that we went from a high fantasy world of Sigmar and god beasts and legends and lore into something about the farmers and the commercial trade and the way that we work between the Twin Tail Comet cities and all that good stuff. So
yeah. And then they mentioned battalions, so they're being pretty. So they mentioned battalions. Is there any battalion that really stood out to you in these little two blurbs? Beast Hunters versus?
I haven't seen anything just yet. I'm just happy for battalions in general. The Free People only had one battalion, and it costed me about 800 points to field at minimum. So you had to have a general, 3 battle line. You need to take a unit of demigriffs, pistoliers, outriders, great swords, and then the battalion was 200 points as well. So when you added all of those minimum requirements, it wasn't like there's optional 1 to 3. No, it was straight. You need 3 of this, 1 of this, 1 of this, 2 of this.
Yeah.
It made it really expensive.
Yeah. So there's a ton of rules talk we could do, but you just go watch Vince. They covered it all, I'm sure.
Well, we've only got probably 1/3 or even less of the rules. So
right.
I think I like to avoid the spoilers as much as possible, because I want to have fresh eyes when I look at that book with no assumptions and say, right, what does this book read? Not things that I've made up in the past or what I've read from little snippets. How do these things interact with each other, and what's the opportunity for modeling, hobby, and also performance?
Yeah, and Tristan brings up a good point. The battalions, from what I do see teased here, is what I would infer is that they're going to lock you into one of your sort of city factions or your sub factions. So maybe you're not going to be the old factions might actually just all kind of become battalions now. So like your Phoenix Temple are a battalion now instead of a faction, and you're going to see some of that moving forward. That's my speculation there. So
yeah, it's a very, very valid point. The free people had an amazing great company rule, which was a part of their allegiance. And from what I've seen based on Warhammer community and the Warhammer Facebook page, they've been kind of saying that this book will supersede those General's Handbook rules. So will we lose the great company? Maybe, but will they potentially become a battalion?
Yes.
And we keep those rules, we just pay for them? Yeah. Potentially. That's very, very, very potential. So again, this is where I'm like, let's literally pre-order for the book, comes out in 24 hours from now. So
awesome. How pumped are you for that?
Very excited.
Very excited. Yeah.
That's good. And I'm hopefully, look, I'm conscious that there's going to be a lot of changes. So I think I've got to be open to the changes that are coming, and appreciate that I have a book where for 4 years I've been fighting for a book. And will I get upset that I've lost Free Guild archers? Yeah. Is there any things that, I've always had a particular general that used to ride a horse. Do I have that option anymore? No. But is this a new world? Absolutely. And I'm here for the ride.
Cool. See, I love that you said that. Because I'm the Nagash loyalist. Sorry, Nagash. Gotta stay on brand. The Nagash loyalist. I just he's my favorite dude. But like when Bone Reapers were teased, I'm like, fuck yeah! Finally, a new Death army I can get behind. I want to see what Death looks like in the new world, and I want to see their take on really that classical fantasy in the new world. I that's just what has me the most excited is that bridging two worlds with this book. So
I would like to the final thing I might say on this topic is I'm hoping and praying that it's more than just the cities that we have in Firestorm. I'm hoping, and as a Death player, I'm sure you can appreciate that. We have the cities that are in the realm of Death, and we know that they have a living harmony between
that would be metal.
The spirits of the ancestors working in partnership with the free folk. Hopefully there's things like this, whether it's the ability to create your own story or whether they have other cities that allow us to, maybe it's a barbarian-esque tribe that works in partnership with the orcs, or maybe there is something that, even in partnership with Death, right?
Well,
and there is a 1 in 4 rule that you could have, a necromancer and skeletons and maybe an enhanced, mercenary rule, but how can I create my free city, which is the Death
in
and
Shyish,
the free people
like you're in
Shyish? How can I do that? And is there a rule set that allows me to do it outside of narrative and open? I'm hoping that option is there somewhere.
Yeah, well, no, that's actually a fantastic point because the Shyish, people think like Shyish, oh, that's Nagash's realm and it's just like pure evil. No, Shyish is just, you got to think of like them like planets. They're like their own little planets with like a full biome, with a full set of biomes and everything. Like it's a full planet of death, where they have deserts and snowy mountains and everything like that. And there are people that inhabit them. And one of the big things about Shyish is like it's people like co-living with their like the ghosts of their ancestors and stuff. And wouldn't Sigmar have like defended them once upon a time? And like I get it, he's a giant coward and he went and hid in his cloud city and let a bunch of mortals die forever. Where Nagash benevolently then shielded them. But one of those cities of Sigmar denizens still be there, and their lineages and stuff like that. Like I'd be really interested to see that, and maybe that's our take for Midwest Meltdown. Is you're the free city thing, and like my constructs can just be random constructs that help build the city, and they're fucking partying with you. And let's go.
We know. Well, even in the old rules, the story of Balthazar Gelt, I think it was, that he was getting corrupted by necromancy, and he kind of got shunned out. Or maybe I'm confusing myself with another hero. But long story short, there are all these stories to tell. And the Living City is a great example where the free folk live in partnership with Sylvaneth, and there's a co-Sylvaneth kind of build. Hopefully there's stuff like that allows us to do that. And as Tristan said in the chat, worst case scenario, we do have the mercenary companies. So there is options where I could ally in that necromancer with some zombies and skellies, but
I'd like to see it in the book. I'd like to see it in the book.
Yeah.
Like anything. Yeah. And this comes back to make it physical, because the physicality of the game is super important. Like, make it a thing in the book, because then you make it real when there's rules, and I need that personally. That's just how my brain works. So is there any final just lasting point you want to, any resonant statement before I go onto this gold thing that's just been hanging in the background this whole time, distracting me?
No, I think my parting words to the people that are either from the old world, free people, or Dwarden players now, is that there is only one constant in life, that is change. Get on board. This is going to be a good book. I don't know it. I haven't read the book. I'm not a play tester, but I have faith that this will allow us new tools to compete and have fun.
No, I agree. All right, so the big hot take super side rant that we have planned for you is I actually gave Coach homework. As I mentioned, he's part of the reason why I'm even doing this podcast.
I didn't do it, by the way.
I know you didn't.
I've been interstate.
I know you didn't, which is what's going to make it even better. So I did a couple that I was just thinking about in my work truck today exactly, and I'm like, oh man, I should have wrote them down. Did not write them down. So let's go. So just like with Tomb King Tristan during the Tomb King episode, where we did like sort of NBA mascots as Age of Sigmar armies, or what a mascot would be for an Age of Sigmar army if it were an NBA team. We're gonna do some Age of Sigmar armies if they were wrestling superstars from the WWE, WWF, that sort of venue, right? So I know your favorite wrestler is The Rock. Which army is The Rock?
Yeah, tough. So, what are the characteristics of The Rock? He is obnoxious.
Charisma.
He has
charisma.
High charisma. The people love him. He doesn't always do what's right. So what? There's obviously a lot of characteristics of The Rock. So what? I'm looking here, and I'm thinking like, what is The Rock? Who is the people's champion?
Well, I'll let you. Okay, so you maybe need to meditate on that. Like, do you not? Is nothing coming immediately to mind?
Look, I'd like to think something like I don't know, like the Gloomspite Gits, maybe. I don't think anyone hates them. In fact, most people quite love them, whether they just laugh at the squigs, whether they have fun with them. But I feel like the Gloomspite Gits are the people's champion. I don't think. Yeah, I'm gonna go Gits.
You're gonna go Gits, and
Godrak is not The Rock. I don't know. I feel like if Gotrak's anybody, it's Hulk Hogan. You just can't take him down.
Yeah.
And every time you put him down, you tombstone pile drive him 3 times. You know, Paul Bearer raises the urn, and Gotrak shrugs off that wound, and he just keeps going in and swinging.
So I let you talk about it, and as you began describing things, I realized you were just kind of describing Nagash. I mean, it is Nagash and his millions, is it not?
The millions and millions of fans?
The millions and millions of fans, in quotation marks. They're enthralled. No. They're enthralled to his presence. They can't not be.
I can't say that. I can't say.
The people's elbow is the hand of dust.
Remove all your cheese merchants that are the Grimghast Reapers, and you would be the people's champion. Maybe with Grimghast Reapers, you're more like The Rock when he was in the corporation.
Oh, okay, so he's corporate Rock. Okay, all right, he's corporate Rock.
I think corporate Rock right now with the Grimghast. Remove Grimghasts and all this CP abuse, and we might be back to the people's champion.
Yeah, okay, all right. It might actually be easier to go in and do armies, and then think of what the army would be as a champion.
Yeah, maybe this is a very. I mean, wrestling has been going around for.
Oh yeah,
it's like one of the oldest sports.
But there's no. Well, it really is. And I had one that I was gonna. So we got the 4 Chaos Gods, and the one I thought of in the truck that just perfectly matched was with Tzeentch. All right, so people may not know is I'm a huge Jericho fan, and I think Tzeentch is Jericho. And it pains me to say it because I hate the Tzeentch army. Love Tzeentch, the Chaos God. He's one of my favorites. But, like, the army, it's stupid birdmen and squiggly, like, gum blob horrors. I hate the army. But Jericho... Oh, go ahead.
And you've got the Blue Scribe, which has potentially got the list of Jericho.
Oh, yeah, the Blue Scribe's got the list of Jericho. But like it's like the more I think about it, the more Tzeentch is Jericho, because Tzeentch is like always quote unquote changing and stuff like that, and he's like just figuring it all out. That's freaking Jericho. He's the only wrestler still active that has achieved legend status and can still get heat, because he's just so good at changing, at mixing up his character work. You know, like we had Dad Jericho, which to me is peak Jericho so far. But now you've got Judas Jericho on AEW, and it's just like he's the goddamn Lord of Change. Like he's got it figured out. He was once the Lionheart. Like he's manipulative. His ring persona, like I think Tzeentch is Jericho.
Yeah, I mean Jericho had an amazing introduction to WWE or WWF. When he interrupted The Rock during the Millennium Clock.
And since The Rock is... Oh, go ahead.
I remember the debut of Zench, where they brought out the 9 Destiny dice, and we still remember those Destiny dice to this day. The crazy spell laws, or even the ability to be able to cast or unbind 27 inches with magical supremacy. So, I would agree that Jericho is the Lord of Change.
Yeah. Yeah. With the countdown clock, one of the greatest examples of how you do a champion's debut. And it's a RantCast, so I'm going to do this. I don't hate John Cena. I've said it aloud. I don't hate John Cena. We get it, Super Cena was a problem and his golden shovel, yada, yada, yada. But Jericho came out to the biggest superstar in the world at the time, which was The Rock. Okay? I mean, Stone Cold and The Rock were just neck and neck, back and forth. They were the Attitude Era. I'd posit Mankind was super fucking important. I'd posit that Team Extreme and the Dudley Boys were super fucking important. My other favorite wrestler, he's not active, so I don't call him my favorite wrestler, would have been Edge, but so there's a lot of stuff I'd say, but when it comes down to it, Jericho got up to the biggest superstar in the world, and it launched him.
Yeah, and he went toe to toe. That was a rebrand. He was doing stuff with Goldberg, and he was trying things in WCW. Didn't quite work. They wouldn't push him. The glass ceiling was certainly there. Mm-hmm. WWF backed him, and I'll never forget the tormenting he did with Stephanie McMahon. And I remember doing the Titantron where he had a pre and post surgery Stephanie McMahon with her boobs out, and he just took an absolute Mickey out of Triple H and Steph, and that was just amazing.
Yeah. And so for Jericho, blah, blah, blah. And in a sense, I see Cena as the post-Attitude Era's, Rock or Stone Cold. He was more the eternal good guy, but our attitudes had changed. But in terms of what he was doing for the brand, was just this consistent superstar. And no one was able to beat Jericho in his presence, because he was too fucking, the talent just wasn't there, or was getting buried in other ways. So that was just a little random take. And so it'd be interesting to see who we think Cena is. And I think I have an answer. But while we're on
Stormcast.
I know.
Stormcast.
That's so obvious, isn't it? It's so obvious that the Stormcast Eternal are John Cena.
All the kids love the Stormcast, and all the adults boo the Stormcast. Boo, get a real army, boo, boo.
Yeah.
And they just keep pushing them. And even though the crowd is no, we've had enough Cena, no more Cena. They just keep new battle term, new models. So
or pre-cancer Roman Reigns. It's they're Cena, they're Roman Reigns. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Still on the subject of chaos, who do you think Korn is?
Korn, Brock Lesnar.
You think so?
Just kind of goes in and just creates bloodlust and just kicks people's teeth in.
I mean, it could go okay. All right.
I mean, during the heyday of Korn, where it was super strong, they would, murder host, absolutely annihilated people. But then, much like Brock Lesnar, he only turns up 5 days in a calendar year. So his time in the meta, like Korn, is little flashes of brilliance.
Okay, all right, you've sold me on Brock. I'm sold. All right, we can move on now. Skaven.
I'm actually offended by the way that Tomb King Tristan thinks Mankind is Gloomspite gets.
I agree. I agree with Tristan, because they are not The Rock.
I definitely think that Gloomspite is probably so Mankind is maybe more like Beasts of Chaos.
Yeah,
mongreled.
I'm a total homer for Beasts of Chaos, and Mankind's one of my favorites. You can't do that to me. I can't be empirical right now.
Bring back a hardcore belt. Damn straight Joel McGrath. I would very happy get rid of this 24/7 belt. Bring back the hardcore title. Let's see.
Yeah, but they don't have the stars for the hardcore title right now. They just don't have the
stars for the intercontinental title
or USA
or the tag team.
No, New Day is fantastic. They just don't. New Day, Revival. They've got some stars. They're just not working right.
Tomb King Tristan, by the way, Mankind was actually super important because he was the
Rock and Sock Connection
person in the Rock and Sock Connection, and had that brilliant moment of "This is your life" with The Rock, and his former girlfriend. And look, Mankind is amazing. I got to meet Mankind, actually, funnily enough. Behind my belt is signed by Kurt Angle and Mick Foley. So a big fan of Mankind. Cactus Jack do love. I'll never forget the Royal Rumble where he brought in 3 personas. Obviously Hell in a Cell is incredible.
He took a freaking 50-foot bump, for Christ's sakes. The wrestling's fake crowd, like, yes, it's a portion of it's fake, it's it's scripted, fine. But to call it fake, get the fuck out. You can't fake falling 50 feet. Yeah,
Joel said Mick Foley's a legend. That's wrong. Mick Foley is God.
Mick Foley is fantastic. Shane O'Mac and Mankind, best Hell in the Cell ever. Yeah, those two are Hell in the Cell like legends. Absolutely. Right. Shane O'Mac's Coast to Coast is downright fucking inspirational. I know RVD used to do it, but Shane O'Mac did it on the 20-foot ring, and yeah, I'm sorry. No, so we're still in the subject of Chaos Gods. Anyone come to mind for Skaven? You know, like like someone duplicitous, someone manipulative, backstabby. You know.
Yeah, interesting. I'd love to see what the chat thinks.
Well, I saw Miz just get mentioned, but Miz could be Skaven.
He's a bit weedy. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Miz, and he does like make my skin crawl. So yeah, he's kind of like this weedy, manipulative, pain in the ass. So.
Yeah, he's got the accolades, but the accolades feel kind of like random, and you know, he doesn't like necessarily. And I don't want to say he doesn't earn them. I think the Miz does like really good work, but like he just kind of like steals them. You know, like he takes them. I
mean, would you say something like Edge? I could steal Matt Hardy's girlfriend.
I could say, yeah, Edge is totally Skaven. No, it's got to be Edge because the rated R superstar. He was pretty chaotic. The kind of the meta power of his push, because if Lita doesn't cheat on Matt Hardy, like outside the kayfabe, for real, with Edge doesn't get the push. Like he simply doesn't. That got him the heat he needed to be all the way over, as they say in the business.
Kind of like Skaven, they've been around for a long time, got a book, and they finally got the push they deserve. So, yeah. I mean, they debuted with Gangrel. They came out, did the 3-second pose.
Yeah.
Let's do Skaven as
I like
as the Edge.
Oh, that's the Fiend. No. The Fiend is Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Because we've just gotten the flashes of them with the fucking face and the big grin. The Fiend the Fiend. Bray Wyatt is Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
And we did have Bray Wyatt, who a bit of a failed, never got the solid push that he deserved, which is Tomb Kings. And we just put a mask on them, pretended to be different, and we are now the new Death.
Yeah, I'm for it. I'm way for it.
Sorry, Tristan.
Yeah, sorry, Tristan. Bray Wyatt / the Fiend is Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Yeah, the Fiend could be your new favorite wrestler, but no, behind the mask is Bray Wyatt, who was the lighter of the Fireflies. He just didn't get the push he deserved, much like Cetra. I'm sure he could have got a push to the moon, but never got it.
Mia's favorite is Ember Moon.
Yeah, Ember Moon. Does Ember Moon have?
Well, she's hyper talented. I think she's Legion of Blood. She's got a little bit of a pseudo vampire gimmick. She's hyper talented but underrepresented. Like she's just not getting the push she needs. Like I think Ember Moon is Legion of Blood.
All right, let's go with that. I'll accept that.
Okay.
And Jim Christian said Rey Mysterio is Nighthaunt. Sure.
You're going to the shower now? Maybe not. Who's Slanesh? I feel like there's an easy answer to Slanesh, but I'm curious to know what you say.
I mean, straight away I think about Gold Dust.
Same. Yep.
Or even what's his name in NXT?
Yeah. He's doing a Prince gimmick right now. He's fantastic.
Velveteen Dream.
Velveteen Dream. I'd go with Velveteen Dream, and here's why: because Velveteen Dream is over, and he's gotten like the title run, and he's done like really awesome. And Gold Dust never got the full push.
So
if Velveteen Dream is new Slanesh, Gold Dust is old Slanesh.
I was going to say Roman Reigns. I was going to say Roman Reigns is Slanesh.
Why?
He's got the look. He's got the look, and when you get in the ring with Roman Reigns, you always fight last because you know you're going to lose. You know that Roman is the golden child, and your career is probably going to go backwards after that loss. So you're going to have to submarine back to the title.
I can't. I like the pitch. Why? But I can't sign off because I don't think he has the like. I don't think he's the total package the way Velveteen.
But Gold Dust and Velveteen Dream are not title contenders, and Slanesh certainly is. And I know Joel in the chat would certainly agree with me that Slanesh are the title contenders. Just look at Nova. Just look at some of the most recent tournament releases. And sadly, Velveteen's just not there yet, and Gold Dust never was.
Right. Yeah. No. Touche. So old Slanesh is Velveteen Dream / Gold Dust, and new is Roman Reigns. All right, I'll buy that. Yeah. No, you sold me on it. Why isn't Luke in on this? Because Luke will be on later into the month as part of Oztober, and or Ostober if you prefer. And we've got a similar take but different. I'm gonna spoil it right now. We're gonna do community members as WWE personas.
I look forward to being The Rock.
You look forward to being The Rock? Hornswoggle.
I mean, I've got the Brahm. Oh, where's my Brahma Bull? On the other side.
Yeah,
there's the Brahma Bull.
It could be a Chicago Bulls logo or the Brahma Bull. I'm not sure. I'm kidding. Alistair Black. So he's got to be an underdog that's on the up, right? Like this up and comer who's going to be a total like destroyer of the meta. I might say he's Cities. I might say Alistair. Huh?
I'll say Iron Jaws.
You think he's Iron Jaws? Oh, see he's got the brutality I think of Iron Jaws, which swings him towards Iron Jaws. But that sort of like thing that's like coming up and just gonna like crush. Yeah, I'll sign off on that. Alistair Black is Iron Jaws. Yeah, I dig that. And we do all the big Chaos Gods. I didn't forget any of them. Zinch Korn, Slanesh.
Nurgle. We haven't done Nurgle.
Oh, Nurgle. Is there anyone who's just gross? Or like...
I mean, I'd say someone like...
Paul Bearer is the only one I can think of for Nurgle.
That's gross.
Well, no, Paul Bearer, because he's just like... I don't know, unsettling and stuff. Like
let's come back to that one.
Yeah, Nurgle, we can move past Nurgle. Alright, so order, we already nailed Sigmar. Daughters of Cain. Becky Lynch?
I would have gone someone like Tessa Blanchard or like some type of like female ass kicker that I'd say I'm going to go with Tessa Blanchard, but unfortunately that's not a WWE superstar.
Okay. I'm going to stick with Becky Lynch because she has just been strong the whole time, written off for a little while, and then the man was just like, I am here. In that time period, she was the only person who got all the way over. Male, female.
Okay.
She was the only one who got all the way over in that time period.
But were Daughters of Cain ever over? Like, they were popular because they won, but no one liked them.
I'd say over means dominance in the meta. Not necessarily, like, accolades from the fans or the players. Rikishi for Nurgle?
Yeah, I was going to say Rikishi for Nurgle.
Yes!
John McGrath, you've nailed it.
Yep.
The stink face. Occasionally they do the dance with Too Cool, Scotty Too Hottie,
and he's kind of gross because he's rocking a thong and stuff like that. But like everybody loved Rikishi, just like everyone loves Papa Nurgle. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah, perfect. Dodgers Kane, Seraphon. Seraphon might be hard. Seraphon kind of doesn't really have like a full identity in Age of Sigmar right now.
So sorry, who was that? Sorry, I was thinking of Joey Ryan.
No, Seraphon might be difficult to do because
yeah,
they don't really have
Seraphon.
they don't really have an identity in the meta right now. So maybe we just kind of skip over them. Tell us in the comments which WWE superstar you think Seraphon would be.
Seraphon.
Oh, Luchasaurus from AEW / the indie circuit. Maybe.
Yeah,
but now you're going to make me have to talk about Orange Cassidy, my favorite wrestler currently. That isn't Finn Balor or Jericho.
I was trying to think of the characteristics of the Seraphon, and yeah, you know what? Let's go with Luchasaurus for now.
Luchasaurus for now? Fine. Yeah. I'm like awesome, but not really like achieving much, right? Like totally awesome, but not achieving that. And Dinosaur Gimmick is a big fan.
I was just remembering what I was thinking about was the Ultimate Warrior window of Hulk Hogan memory. So I was thinking of the memories that is the former Lizardman, now Seraphon, and remembering them to the dressing room. That's where my head was.
Maybe like Macho Man Randy Savage. Because No? Okay.
No, I feel like Macho Man's got a better spot somewhere.
Okay. So like Ultimate Warrior, where the memory is maybe stronger than what he really was in his time.
Yeah, I would say Ultimate Warrior.
I like that.
Seraphon?
I like that a lot. I like Ultimate Warrior for Seraphon. Like the memory is maybe a little bit stronger than the actuality, and like the true greatness was there for a little while, but like the memory has been I like that. That the memory's more been cultivated than the accolades, and I like that a lot.
See, I'd rather say Macho Man's more like Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth's always been super popular, but not as popular as the Stormcast. So it's almost like the mega powers. Like we always knew Randy was in the shadows, and the minute that Stormcast want to steal Miss Elizabeth, which might be their terrain rules, I'm sure Stormcast could take the Wildwoods, and we'd have the clash again.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Sylvaneth is probably the second most important order army. So I'm willing to say
Macho Man is Archaon specifically. Because he does have the Tower of Power. That's what Warcry's all about. The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. Ooh, yeah. Like he's got the... Yeah. I'm sorry, Tomb King Tristan wins. Macho Man is Archaon. He ain't doing shit right now. Yes,
he can't.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, the Slayer of Kings.
Archaon is ready. Like...
because
Rend one on his weapon, like that's Macho Man. Like he's just like he's such this big, huge persona. He's so awesome. The Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse, but the hype is maybe a little bit higher than the success because Archaon is not Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan has mega achieved, right?
See, I was thinking like Archaon is more like Lex Luger, where he's kind of like
Archaon is Rollins. Maybe burn it down. I can see that. Triple H is Archaon. I can see that. Yeah, no, Triple H wins. I think because Triple H is
the Slayer of Kings.
Well, no, like because Triple H is he's the Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse. I blame him for a lot of problems right now.
he's the King of Kings.
Yeah, he's the King of Kings.
The pain of me fuels him. See, I think Lex Luger is Archaon mostly because he didn't do a whole lot, but when he got that small push, that's when like you got your Destiny dice on Archaon, and he actually does roll that double.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm happy to go with the chat. I'm a man of the people. I'm willing to go with the chat.
Yeah, I think Triple H.
Triple H.
Macho Man or Triple H. I like that. So, always a little bit overrated, which is what Triple H is.
Ooh, no.
I'm sorry, I'll never forgive him for the click and just basically ruining kayfabe and ruining wrestling as we know it. The more I think about it, the more Triple H is Archeon. It's so applicable.
All right.
Like he ruined the kayfabe, which is the world that was for Age of Sigmar. You know, like he ruined the kayfabe.
So should be Manfred. What you're saying is he's Manfred. Triple H is a manipulator. He married the daughter of the boss. He destroyed the old world, and we now live in a new world.
Yeah,
and Manfred's trying to rebuild the.
Yeah, and he's trying to get his click back. Triple H could be Manfred.
That's what I just said. I literally just said that.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying you kind of sold me on the Triple. The point is Triple H is two heroes in the game that I think are kind of pansies, and they're little Mary Sues and why they're still around. You know, Archeon used to be just a unit upgrade. He was just a derpy idiot. Like, oh man, I'm so mad.
Well, until he got that really cool model, like he was just like that him on a horse who's just a bit average.
Yeah, so. He's just this derpy little upgrade idiot. Like, I don't care. Anyway, so we order any big important order armies we need to go through yet?
I just had a thought, and because the pain of my pain is fueling Tristan, I thought I'd give back, and I would say that CM Punk is the Tomb Kings.
It's perfect.
And the reason I say that is because they don't exist anymore, and in the world of WWE, CM Punk doesn't exist.
Yeah, but also Pipe Bomb. The Pipe Bomb was
He's a Pipe Bomb. He's a people's champion. You know, the people who love Punk, they love Punk. But according to the organization, they do not exist. All records have been scratched of Punk.
You're right. You're right, Luke. Vlad and Isabella are Macho Man, and Miss
Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth. Yeah, that's Macho Man. Macho Man is Vlad. Rest in peace, just like Vlad. Ah, so sad.
Guys are mean.
Oh, right.
I'm trying to work with living wrestlers.
Yeah, I know, right in my feels though. But Vlad, the model's not around anymore, so it makes perfect sense for Macho Man.
So let me reverse the tide. Who's Ric Flair? We can't not have this conversation without Ric Flair.
I mean, he's the dirtiest player in the game, right? But he's legend status and a grandpa that like is kind of creepy and awkward suddenly. His daughter's like super prolific now. Oh, that's brutal. Oh man, I'm not even gonna say that one live, so that like the audio, like when I export this to an audio format, you're gonna.
I am gonna say it because the people on will these come up in the VOD on YouTube?
This will be on YouTube.
The chat.
The chat, yeah. Look,
right.
The whole point is that the chat is part of the RantCast. That's why it takes up half the screen. And
well, all right. Joel McGraw, you've won the this month.
The internet's over. We can just pack it up and go home for a little bit. Yeah. Like the internet is done. Come back tomorrow, everybody.
Just I'll send the invitation to Joel. He can take out. We can swap roles.
Yeah,
I think he just won with that one.
Oh man, brutal.
Wow.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh.
But back to Flair. I want to talk Flair.
Let's get back on track with Ric Flair.
I want to say Flair is maybe Fire Slayers.
Okay.
They resilient old bastard.
Oh yeah, because there was that time that everybody hated Fire Slayers too, and they were the meta monster. But now it's just kind of like they're not that same.
We feel sorry for them, like the old man. I mean, Flair gets back in the ring when he retires from WWE into Impact, and now we see this old 70-year-old man in his underwear trying to wrestle Sting, which is kind of like how the Fire Slayers kind of come about now. Is that they just?
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I feel like I'm always just missing order armies when I do one of these. Though.
We haven't done Deepkin or
Deepkin
Caradron.
I'm gonna go Deepkin or Finn Balor, even though I don't particularly care for Deepkin, but I love Finn Balor, because the entrance is the biggest deal ever, and it's fucking over when it's over.
Yeah.
They're
trying to think about that.
because they're deep strike, they're board edge, charge, and then it's just fucking over. You know, like it's all about the entrance and then the cleanup. Like they either destroy you off that charge or they don't, which is the coup de grace. The coup de grace is still kayfabe protected. Like it's still a protected move.
I will say Deepkin is the shield. Especially like the shield is like they're like the three man unit of eels where they sideboard you. The entrance is important, and they usually take you down, from the side.
Man, something I love and something I hate could both be IDK. This checks out. Yeah, IDK.
Deepkin is Ricochet. Yep, he's over.
That's
but
fucking amazing.
one-dimensional.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that with Ricochet. Yeah. Deepkin is Ricochet. I like that better. That fits better. Over as fuck, amazing, but extremely one-dimensional. Yep.
Yeah, we can work with that.
Yeah, I can work with that.
See, I would say that's more Kharadron Overlords, though. They are one-dimensional.
Yeah, but they're not relevant currently. They want to be. And like I do think there's good KO builds out there. I'm just not seeing people bring them, So like what's something that's good, we're just not seeing it. Like some wrestler that's like great, but we're just not seeing it.
Dolph Ziggler?
Yeah.
They should have always got the push, but they just never get pushed. And when they get pushed, it only lasts a few minutes because then Games Workshop decide to change the weapon armies of the Arcanauts.
Yeah, I'm way for that. They were even like oddly grand, like the heavyweight champions once when Clown Car was like just the shit, but then it's just like you forget that Dolph Ziggler was a heavyweight champion.
KO or Andrade?
They don't have the achievement. Andrade is great, but he hasn't achieved yet. No. The KO have achieved in the past, and I keep waiting for them to come back. Ziggler,
which is Dolph.
That's Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, Dolph Ziggler's way better.
Cool. And cities, well, who can cities be? I don't know if we have one.
Maybe they're Andrade, like they're on the come up.
I'll pick someone in the cities when we go to destruction.
All right, I'm gonna go use the restroom. Do you have just something you can rant about, or an AMA session you'd like to do?
Let's do AMA.
Do an AMA.
All right, chat. AMA. So if the chat wants to fire things up,
all right, chat.
I will.
It's on you now. This is where you're going to take over my podcast for me.
And we have 2 bottles of Doomwater that will be available for some of the.
Right.
Joanne made a really good point.
The best question wins one of these bottles of Doomwater. Best question wins Doomwater. All right.
In the meantime, while you go have a slash, Joanna, I think you've nailed it. Cities of Sigmar needs to be a tag team. So I would probably say Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Boys. They're quite popular. They have a whole range of weapons or attacks in the kit. I don't know. They've just come out with a huge pop like WrestleMania. Dudley Boys. The Dudley Boys, no. Maybe like the Ironwood Arsenal can be like the Dudley Boys where they go in and just absolutely do all the damage, but then they don't last the full 5 rounds. Spike Dudley is kind of like the elves, right? I can approve of that, or they look a bit more like Dark Elves as a faction. Dark Elves? Nah, I have to say... If we're talking current champions or tag teams, who could they be? The Bar, mohawk beards, pale skin. Yeah, that could work. I was thinking of Revival. No flips, just kicks. They've got some pretty good. What else have you got? Ask me anything, guys, while Mr. Mephisto has a slash, gets a drink. Is there anything that you want to know? This is the Ask Me Anything section, and the winners will get a bottle of Doomwater. You can see it is hair free. I have strained his beard hairs from the water. If you want those beard hairs, I guess I could pull them out of the bin. But this is ready to drink for all you thirsty boys. You can see it's got that blue tint. I don't know why, but I'm sure it's delicious.
I love that I come back and you're plugging the freaking water. Oh man, that's great. Look at me just breaking the rules though. You're not supposed to have dead air and all that stuff when you're live, and here we go.
No, I think we got. I had said the Cities of Sigmar. What did I?
Hardy Boys.
I think they've come back with a huge pop like they did at WrestleMania. They used to be really, really popular and big back in the day. Got a little bit quirky for a while with the Broken Universe, and now we have come back and we've got a book.
Yeah, I like that with Hardy Boys. I dig that. I'll sign off on that.
Love it, and I hear there's a new batch of Bash. So this is a limited. This is a limited edition one that's been aged with bacon, but it's a limited edition release. So
right, perfect. So I think we kind of rounded out order. I'm sure we forgot a bunch, but
getting weird.
Yeah, it's getting weird
really
now.
weird.
It's getting weird now. So is there any superstar that you must label as a hero or?
I want to go back to what Joanna's asked, and she said, who is the best faction and why is it the boys who are as deadly as ever?
So is the best faction... Wait.
So who is the best faction and why is it the boys who are just as deadly as ever?
Okay, all right.
So we're talking more tribes. We're talking about the dad bods themselves. They remind me of like the bushwhackers.
Speaking of dad bods, keep an eye out on Twitter for my costume this year. It's fucking fantastic.
All right. Shout out to Mr. Mephisto in his own stream about his own Twitter. Check that
out. We're live. I can talk to the chat too.
Shout out to Mr. Mephisto. Love that channel. Represent. If you haven't subscribed or donated, make sure to help him buy that bottle of doomwater. He's a thirsty boy.
Super thirsty. Also, I'm a little into the Australian accents, which is part of the reason I can't distinguish y'all from each other. Because I just hear that Australian accent, and I go into like sexy endorphin mode, and I'm just like,
That's a little racist. I did actually have one person tell me that they enjoy watching my stream, and their missus also listens in, and they enjoy the accent. They think it's hot, so bit weird.
I was making a joke, but that just got real.
Nope,
really.
That is real. That is real. That is real. That is damn real. Big Show would be ogres. Yeah, I could be down for that. I could see the Big Show being the ogres.
Or Rhino. Rhino is Beast Claw Raiders.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Pretty awesome. When he was in ECW, he was just peak, like way over, crushing it, won titles all the time. But it has been a long time since ECW, so he's just a fan favorite now. Like, that's BCR.
Beast Claw Raiders, yeah. Or it could be like Taz, where Taz was a beast in ECW and then got to WWE and had to pretty quickly. Probably should have retired earlier than he did.
He broke his fucking neck and walked to the hospital.
I was more referring to maybe the ogres should be retired.
Oh, retiring the ogres, gross. So, best faction. So, is it the boys who are just as... If you really want us to hash out what the best faction is, I'm torn between saying either Skaven or Gitz. And here is why. Because they have a multitude of model ranges to build. No, it's Gitz. It's Gitz because I think Gitz are a perennial 4-1 army that can go 5-0 if you're very fucking good and you catch a break, which is where you want to live. But their model range is fucking fantastic.
She only meant it as a joke, by the way.
I know she did, but do you know what you do when you ask me a joke? The best way to make a joke funnier is to take it seriously, and then just, I'm Andy Kaufman. I'm being Andy Kaufman right now for your joke. Or Andy Meffman? I don't know. Don't call me
You're
Andy.
showing your age.
Don't
You're
fucking
showing your age, old man.
old man. Yeah, it's true.
Old man.
It's true. Yeah. So we a little bit of a teaser on WWE, and then I just kind of I've got you only for like probably about 10 more minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have to pretend to work.
Yeah.
But I've been away for the last 4 days. On the complete other side of Australia, so I'm taking this as a bit of a relaxer.
Perfect. All right, so I have you for 10 more minutes. We did the irreverent stuff. So most people have turned off the stream by now, or they've clicked away from the VOD on YouTube to go watch something else. So
this is the true dedicated Mr. Mephisto.
Yeah,
this
is for the true fan base here, which is some little bit of heavier stuff. I mentioned earlier, I was that you kind of like you just helped me out. I don't know why. Because we interacted at Adepticon, sure, but like you had no reason to, and then you just like it was one post, and I just remember in particular on my end it was about like writing and how just like unfulfilled I had felt in that moment. Why did you reach out in that moment? Like, what was it like? I'm gonna be AOS life coach now instead of AOS coach. What happened?
All right.
What?
We're getting
Yeah,
we're getting real here.
Yeah, we're getting real here. Everyone's like, it's the true fans and the people who have watched 2 hours of my VOD not live on YouTube.
Why did I reach out?
Yeah, you sent me a PM in that moment, and that's when we really kind of like I've always liked you were it's you and Doom were my first two like AOS videos. I actually discovered Warhammer Weekly a little bit later. I'm sorry, Vince. But it was Doom in his tank, and it was you telling me how to go to a tournament. Those were like my first two like YouTube videos, and so it was like I always had like a reverence and stuff like that. But then like in that moment, it's like you're not just a head on the internet; you became a friend, and yeah. So I'm just curious.
Well, it's really kind of you to refer me as a friend. So, look, it's probably a couple of things. It might be the culture of Australia, which is about mateship. I think one of the things that Australia does really well is that, especially for men, we are all mates. We can go to a pub, we can meet people at a barbecue, we can meet people at a game, and if we have a mutual interest, there is a spirit of mateship or friendship. There's very rarely a barrier. I could go to the Measured Gaming boys down in Bendigo. I could go down to South Australia. When I met Luke Stone for the first time, I could go up to Queensland. I could go interstate, and there's no real barrier to conversation. We just treat each other like mates, and we take the piss, or we joke about each other. We swear at each other. We can be perceived mean, but we're all friends, and it's a really weird, bizarre culture that we have here, and nothing's really taken personal. And you'd ask me a comment about Doom. It's like, oh, are you and Doom are rivals? I'm like, no, God, no. Not the least I'm aware of. But we can tease each other, we can torment each other, we can say mean things, but we're all mates at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's never taken personally. So when we see somebody who is struggling, who has a tough time, whether we know them or not, we will ask, are you okay? What can we do to help? Is there something that we might be able to lend assistance to? And I think it's that culture of mateship.
Is it and so this is part of, a big part of AOS Coach is really the Australian, I don't want to say the Australian brand, but just like you're really a great soundboard for all the Australian events. You're always plugging. It doesn't matter if it's your tournament or Clint's or any. You're just come play games in Australia, and that's part of, maybe that factors into that. Yeah, like it's that camaraderie.
Yeah, I think so. I had the pleasure and the fortune of playing on the Warhammer television stream at Blood and Glory in 2017, I think it was, and I was the second Australian at the time to have played on the stream ever. So Travis had played and he didn't win, so the pressure was on me to play, and I was very lucky to win. But I remember having that moment where I'm like, there's not a lot of people who are going to have the opportunity, one, to play overseas Warhammer, Two, to be able to play on a live stream. And the voice of Australia is great, but all we hear about is America, and we hear about the UK. So I know one of the reasons that I wanted to create the AOS Coach was to highlight our wonderful community. And instead of branding myself as the star player, at the time I was a master's level player. I was playing once or twice a week. I was really doing a lot of cool stuff competitively. I wanted to step back and be more of a coach, a support role, a trainer, a friend, and highlight the other star players and the people who really know their world. So thus that persona was created. Not to say that I know everything and I'm going to coach you, but I'm here to support and help. And that kind of pulled me back a little bit from being that maybe salty, maybe super focused competitively, win at all costs. Characteristics that I was picking up as I strived for that Masters trophy, that tournament winning trophy.
Man, I could do 2 hours just talking to you about this. But it's almost like you're a personification of what I think makes Age of Sigmar great. It's that, like, yeah, the competitive spirit is there because it helps us. Like, competition for competition's sake is almost like wholesome, if you ask me. We used to have to like fight to live and fight to survive, and now we get to like play silly games and still like stress those parts of our weird brain, the lizard brain and stuff. But it's more wholesome than that. So there's that competitive element, but then you dial it back a notch. What's nice about competition is you strive, you get better, you help, you push each other to get better, you're as good as your competition. So you got that piece of pushing and helping, but then you dial it back just a notch to be a friend and just help people. And from you come at it from the Age of Sigmar perspective, which is already just a totally unique community. It blows my mind how many friends I've made just in like about a year and a half now out of my LGS. That taking that step out the LGS is kind of scary. It's intimidating. You think you're going to go to an event and you're going to run into these just crush you on TV players, right? But no, you're going to run into the coach. You're going to run into me. I'm an asshole. I will destroy you and I'll make you feel bad in the moment.
Yeah.
but
No.
but no, and then it's just. And then you're gonna make friends that actually genuinely care. When you throw out just like one tweet about just the dissonance you feel about a story getting rejected. I mean, then that's what it was. Is like I had the story rejected. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And then to be able to connect to people, because you connect with Age of Sigmar. You go, okay, we've got this thing in common, and then you discover you've got just being people, wrestling,
music.
Yeah, and as soon as you find you have those next layers, you've made suddenly lifelong friends in this community, and I think that's what it's about. That's why this is what it is. That's why I podcast about this instead of D&D, even though I'm a way bigger expert on Dungeons and Dragons. You could ask me a rule from the book, and I could tell you the page. Don't do it on chat right now. I've had a few, but it's just it's amazing to me.
So I don't know if Paul Grixty's still in the chat. I know he's he put up one of the last comments.
You're a champion,
but yeah, but Paul's a part of my games club. He's a Swifthawk player, and there's a running joke in my group that when my salty or my competitive side really comes out, I become the black coach. Not referring to like an African, or
no. I was thinking
coach,
the black coach from Legions of Nagash.
Yeah, and it come from Deku's one of my oldest and dearest friends. We played Warhammer back from 4th edition, and he's always been death from day one. We did a faction focused death. He runs a lot of death groups on Facebook, but he called me out because he's a very hobby narrative person.
Hang on, is he the one that actually runs the GA Death Chat? Because it's the only really...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he did faction focused death. If you've watched my stream, I did a video about a month ago with Clint and Deke.
I'll need to talk to him because his Facebook group. There was a time, and God, this is a rabbit hole, but there was a time when The reason I won my sports trophy is because there was a thread started on TGA. Why are Death the most unsportsmanlike players in Age of Sigmar? Over like a year and a half ago, you probably find it in the archives. It's probably about.
Yeah, I've seen it. I remember seeing it.
And I'm just
I was playing Knight at the time.
And I'm just like, you motherfucker. Like, like someone just says that. And I'm just like, what makes us any less sporty? Nate Gash he wasn't LON Nagash yet. AOS 2.0 wasn't out yet. Like, there weren't malign sorcery, the spell portal, none of that shit had happened yet. And somebody's just like, why are you the most unsporting faction? And I'm just like, we're not. But then I went to the GA Death on Facebook, and it was a meme, and we all just kind of became 80s comic book villains talking to each other. And just, like, reveling in this fake persona of, like, being evil, but, like, actually being really great people. And so, like, that Death forum is awesome. GA Death on Facebook is the only group I still... No, BOC on Facebook I also hang out in some, and apparently I'm a moderator on OCR Bone Reapers on accident, but... There you go.
so Deku is very passionate. He's a hobby legend. He's he's narrative first. He's very passionate about his approach. But him and I went to primary school. We went to school from about year 5, so about 10 years old, 9 years old. I got him into Warhammer a little bit later on, and we've known each other for 25 years, probably getting close to 30 years. So yeah, we've got a really good relationship, and he's always the one that reins me in to getting too competitive, because he comes from a very narrative. He's already submitted his list for Sydney GT, and he's written 2 to 5 pages of story. He's actually donating 2 tables worth of terrain, but they are specifically about Carstinia, his piece of the Mortal Realms, which is very much about the old world, that whole spooky forest of the Von Carsteins. But he's actually donated 2 tables worth of terrain to play on the event, which is based in this realm. So he's very narrative, and
that's actually one thing the Cities book did, is they mentioned these shards of the old world being on the in the Mortal Realms, which is pretty sweet. And Warcry also kind of reinforced that, as like there's these like fragments of the old world that are like left around the Mortal Realms, which is really, really cool. No, that's awesome. And I also have like Nega Mephisto is what I call him, is like I've got the darker half too. I've probably got 2 darker halves, because I've got like competitive Mephisto, and he's a true monster when he comes out. I've stared into the face. This guy, I actually used to make real and actual money at tournaments. So like I have that gear in my brain. Okay? Like I've been paid to play video games and card games in my life. And so I have that gear. I'm capable of it. And he's in there somewhere. He hasn't fully come out in Age of Sigmar. And Brendan, in our local scene, as he jokes that I'm Two-Face, is like that other part of me is just like I'm gonna flip the coin one day, and then that truly marred evil side of me is gonna come out. But I've been playing the other side, and it's in there, and so I understand that, like, having that thing. But then at the end of the day, like, the community is what keeps me in check. It's my best games aren't necessarily the ones I've won. They're the ones I've connected with the person I'm playing, if that makes sense. If I've connected with the person I'm playing. Like, I love grudges. I love them. If you told me there was such a thing as a grudge match in competitive MTG or Street Fighter, I would vomit blood, because I would know that your friends are gaming the system by grudging someone to get an easy win in the first round, But in Age of Sigmar, it's not about that. I grudge somebody to set the tone for the weekend,
Yeah. Well, as Joel, if he's still in the chat, from Measured Gaming, shout out to Bush Radio. He does an awesome podcast with his crew. But he had mentioned, and he said, I don't have grudges because I don't believe in Australia anyone really has a grudge with any other player. What we call them are play dates, We call them play dates, and that's because at least in Australia, it's such a vast land. We only may see each other once, twice, 3 times a year, and which is why CanCon's such a celebration with some of the biggest Age of Sigmar players all coming together. So it's a good opportunity to go, look, I haven't seen you in months. Let's have a game. And it's very, very, very rarely grudge. Maybe no, you know what? It's not even really a grudge. It's obviously the language we use.
It's an excuse to play. Date. Yeah, it's an excuse to play. It's an excuse
to play, and it's someone that if I come over to Midwest Meltdown and I haven't played, I don't know, Halo Twitch, and I'm like, I want to play you. I've traveled overseas. I'm not going to wait for the luck of the draw. I want to play somebody in particular. It's not an easy win. It's not about asserting dominance. It's about having a game that and scheduling it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've actually commented on how like grudge matches shouldn't be called grudge matches because they are not grudges at all. I have never grudged or been grudged by somebody that I'm not kind of already friends with, or like, it's like a handshake even, like because I did Ty and I grudged at God, I forget. It was a Midwest Meltdown, Ty, and it's like you're in my circle of friends and we've never played each other, and it's like, but you're the other GM for the D&D groups we know, and I'm like, let's have a fucking DM off, like let's have the DM's face. And I won, by the way. So
actually, there is one grudge that I've actually seen that was a grudge, and I'm glad that it happened. It was actually with my co-host Liam. He'd been talking some.
This is the Edge fan. Shit. This is the Edge fan, right? Yeah.
No, that's Hayden. That's the Elf Bro.
That's okay. Elf Bros. Okay.
But my co-host Liam, before he got quote unquote coached, some people have called him. He's a little wild, salty child, and he was talking a lot of shit on his own podcast, and maybe wasn't as self-aware as he is today.
This is where the heel thing comes from. He's mentioned online.
This is where he's the villain.
The villain. He talks
a lot of shit, and he had a play date that he backed out of. And a Twitter war or a podcast war happened, and eventually a grudge actually had to happen, and he went through with it, and I think the wounds have been healed. But otherwise, 99.99999% are not real grudges.
No, see that actually brings up the real point for the whole podcast tonight. Is I want to see walk-up music. I want to see entrance music for grudge matches and or top tables. If you're the feature table, and Rob, I know you're watching right now because you love Skaven, and we're supposed to talk about how much you love Skaven tonight.
That's right, we're meant to say that.
Yeah.
Rob and his Skaven, God love him. Which Rob are we talking about, by the way?
Symes, I believe.
I just saw the tweet, and it was just like, say Rob loves Skaven. Like,
Rob loves Skaven. Yeah, because he's got a Patreon tier where if you hit the tier or whatever, he can't talk shit about a certain army for a month. It's good marketing. It's good branding, man. Come on, that's good.
It is very good branding.
It's very good stuff. Yeah, so like he loves Skaven right now. And so you can pay for his affection. How often is that actually correct in life? You can actually buy his affection for an army for 1 month at a time. Anyway, so he loves Skaven. But no, I think, Rob, you're watching right now because you love Skaven. We need you to step up your production game at your good coverage tournaments and events and have entrances for
this is taking you from good to great. Like clearly, you're not doing you're average kind of streamer. You're not doing as well as you probably could be.
Yeah.
And to unlock your potential, we need to start having Titantron videos. We need entrance music.
Yes.
Potentially
pyro. Yeah. I know we play a lot inside, but at least a smoke machine. At least
wrestling's out inside. They can do pyro.
Yeah, but
I entered like a wrestler.
We're in hotels and the ceilings are lower, but like maybe you could do like a little sparklers, like have people waving sparklers, or like have like the fountains. I think we could
put those tournament assistants to work with sparklers and ice and dry ice and things.
Absolutely, have walk-up music for the players when they come up to the table. Have them cut promos between the rounds when they know their matchup.
I almost actually so Seth Cook, the Goon boss, had gave me a really good idea for Sydney GT that I had to scrap at the end, which was going to be cutting a promo. I was going to reward people tournament points for doing a 30-second to 1 minute kind of trash talk, or a hype of why they're going to win the tournament. I think there's a lot of drama that we can leverage from the wrestling world. Maybe a future opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and you can make that work by having a prop table and stuff like that. And the other way you do it is your tournament points have extra other tournament points on a spectrum of things that other people can get. So maybe you can't write well, but you can get up there and pretend to be Macho Man Randy Savage, and like you just have like, if your ancillary or your extra tournament points you can get out of 25, have 30 of them that you can get another way. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Love it. Don't forget the display board. Just talks shit on the internet.
Yes. Just so you can make up for the fact that you didn't bring a display board because you had to fucking fly 6 hours. Yeah. And like, who the fuck's gonna just bring a goddamn display board in their check log? You're not gonna do it.
I did. I brought one to America.
You lie. You said you had somebody said they had one.
No, I brought one.
You had the collapsible old.
Yeah, I had a 4 1x1s.
Yeah.
Moho Joe's like he wants arm and ass man. So Mr. Ass, Billy Gunn's music.
Billy Gunn, yeah. See, I mean, my tune is so like I'm actually more. We've talked enough, that I'm on the like grunge 90s rock. That's like my main, but that's like my main point of interest. And then I have gone way outside since. Smashing Pumpkins were my favorite band growing up. Tool became it a little bit, and we've gone from there.
But I want The Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson.
Oh, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
That's awesome intro music.
Triumph by Wu-Tang Clan. No? Oh man, if you haven't... No? Okay. All right. I mean, it's either that or Wherever I May Roam by Metallica.
By the way, I've got 4 minutes left before I've got to get onto a real...
I think we're good to close out here. I think we've talked entrance music. We've gone a little deep on the emotional side. Thanks for joining me, man.
No, it was great. Thanks for talking a lot of smack and shit, and the chat was great.
Chat was amazing tonight. Thank you all. No,
I'll give you a channel exclusive as well. So not only are we giving away those 2 bottles of doomwater, so proof tested. Tools Talking Wrestling, Tristan. No, we're wrapping up. But the channel exclusive for you, my friend, is that I finally got my ass off into gear and I have set up a podcast. So I'm going to start ripping down the Down Under Sigmar streams and make them into podcast form. They'll be being uploaded over the next coming days onto Podbean. I'll still need to submit stuff to iTunes to get it uploaded, but look out for that if you prefer audio. Maybe you want to work out.
Well, sometimes you got to be at a gym. You need the headphones in. Yeah. Anyone else you want to shout out? I mean, self-promote as much as you want, shamelessly. It's not even shameless here. We have no shame in the RantCast.
All right, so I'm gonna use my last couple of minutes to do the shout. So if you are watching this from overseas and you're not from Australia, I would highly recommend the following content creators to check out. They do great work. They're all a range of different things. So I've mentioned Measured Gaming before. Those guys have a podcast called Bush Radio. Definitely highly check that out. Heralds of War put out an amazing podcast. They are the voice of Australia, and they run CanCon, which is Australia's largest event. You've got the guys like The Dwellers Below, Mortally Wounded, who are putting out great content as well. If you like a bit of a laugh, The Failed Charge is also worthwhile from a podcast point of view. Who else is out there? You've obviously got Doom and Darkness, wonderful YouTube channel.
Don't shout out Doom.
I am shouting out Doom. Nothing more. Just go into his channel, watch the one that I featured on a few times. I think it was RantCast 3. Just get in there, comment on that. Don't sub him. Don't get notifications. Just maybe, I don't know, throw shade at Doom.
Yeah, just go in there and just show up in Doom's content just to talk about how Coach is better.
Just do that. Get into Doom's cast. Say that that Coach is better. We want more Doom, more Coach. So, no, that was a proverbial slip. Who else? There's so many guys like Creaky Gamers, Shadowhammer, putting out great bat reps as well. Check out some of these guys. We do really good stuff, and And obviously, if you want to hear more of my voice, AOS Coach on YouTube.
And you do. AOS Coach on YouTube. And then if there are just 2 tournaments in Australia, like the 2 must go to, obviously there's CanCon, but maybe there's 2 others.
Yeah. Well, selfishly, I'll choose mine. So Sydney GT. Currently, this year it's 110 players. It's grown from 70 to over 100, and we're at 2,500 points. So that happens in 2 weeks' time. Some other big ones that might be worth your time. We have the Runax Team Championship, which is a team of 4. You've got guys like Sydney Slaughter, which is a narrative-driven custom scenario type event.
How many is that? Does that normally come in at?
About 50.
50's not bad if you want to take a vacation to Australia anyway already.
Bush Bash as well, the Bendigo Boys event.
You cut off there the
Doom.
The Bendigo Boys, you cut out there.
The Bendigo Boys and Doom does SAGT or SAGT, which is about 50 players as well. So there's a lot of 50-odd player events around the 50 to 70. But
and it really is a super robust meta. If you've checked the LLV stats, you look at the AOS meta, and it's a really robust. You're gonna get varied games that challenge you from players that want to play really hard. All right, thanks for tuning in, folks.
Thanks for having me. Now I'm gonna pretend to do work.
Yeah, go pretend to do work. I'm gonna switch to closeout here real quick, and do my.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for having me again, Mr. Mephisto.
Anytime, man. Anytime. You have an open invitation on the stream.
Anytime. That's delicious doomwater.
You missed the doomwater drink. Oh no. Oh no. He just drank the doomwater.